This time we're going to resume the meeting of September 18th, 2017. Councilmember Luna, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please. City Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Gilliam?
Here.
Vice Mayor Clower?
Here.
Mayor Velasquez?
Here.
Councilmember Friend?
Present.
Councilmember Luna?
Present.
City Manager Avera?
Here.
City Attorney Diaz?
Present.
Police Chief Westrick?
Here. Thank you. Verification of agenda posting.
The agenda for the City of Hollister City Council meeting of September 18th, 2017 was posted on the bulletin board on September 14th, 2017 at 8 a.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you. City Attorney, as closed session, do you want to report out?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. There were 3 matters that were discussed in closed session. No action was taken on any of them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Tonight we have a proclamation, Constitution Week in the City of Hollister. Mary Beth Nagaretta is here, I believe. You're representing, and your name would be? Lynette Bishop. You want to meet me here? Podium. Whereas it is a privilege and duty of the American people to commemorate the 230th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and displays. Now, therefore, I, Ignacio Velasquez, Mayor of the City of Hollister, do hereby proclaim September 17th through the 23rd, 2017 as Constitution Week in the City of Hollister. This is for you. I'm going to sign it for you afterwards. Okay, let me take care of it and I'll give it back to you. You want to say a few words?
Yes. I want to thank the City Council very much for doing this. I'm representing Daughters of the American Revolution, and I am hoping that everybody this week will get a copy of the Constitution and read it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Are there any items council would like to pull?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull A5.
Any others? Do we have any from the audience?
No, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Second. Is motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item A5, thank you. Item
Yes.
A5?
Mr. Mayor, I pulled that because it's an ABC license for Premier Cinemas. And my concern would be that, we have a lot of children, families that attend cinemas every day, especially weekends. I am not sure as to what time any beer or wine might be served, but I have a concern with that.
Councilmember Luna, we made attempts to contact Mr. Intervilla, and I think Brian actually attempted to contact Ty. I'm not aware of any restrictions that they're suggesting right now or proposing. So it would be disingenuous for me to say that it was just for late shows on Friday and Saturday. I don't believe that to be the case. So I think in this case you should assume that it's a beer and wine license only for on-site sales at the movie theater. So I think that's what we have in front of us, and without any further information, I think that it wouldn't be good for me to comment on that because I really don't know. So.
Yeah, and researching, I believe some of the larger cinemas do serve the beer and wine, but it will be in a late show or, a showing. But if I don't have that information, I don't know that I can support that at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Any from the audience?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Is there a motion? So move. Second. There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Against?
Nay.
Aye. Motion carries. 3-2 vote.
And that was Mickey and
Councilmember Friend and Councilmember Luna were
Thank you.
against. We'll move forward to public input. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any speaker cards?
yes, Mr. Mayor. Victoria Montoya.
My name is Victoria Montoya. I live on 1671 Central Avenue, Hollister. And the public comment that I'm making today is because I read it on the paper. And so the thing of building on 4th and Main Street is an issue that I have not followed very well.
Ms. Montoya, I believe that is an item on the agenda tonight.
If
you could hold that speaker card for that item.
Well, I thought it was not on the agenda.
I believe there's an item on here.
F3, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry?
Item F3.
F3.
Okay, so then you want me to go back and
If
come
you can,
back?
yeah, when the item comes up. Thank you. Sorry for the confusion there. Are there any other speakers?
Marty Richmond.
Good evening, Marty Richard from Hollister. I noticed from the news reports, sadly, that Gavilan College is going to be doing a survey for another facilities bond. I hope all of you are familiar with what happened last time when we voted for that facilities bond. In fact, we put them over the top, and they took $27 million of our money, and they put it in Morgan Hill. I go by it every once in a while when I have to drive up there, and I wave at it, and I say, it's nice to see you again. So when they call you and do a survey, if they do it by telephone, I hope the rest of the public won't say no. They'll just say hell no. And if nobody knows how to say hell no, see me after the meeting outside, and I'll help you along. It isn't a matter of not spending money. I'm willing to spend money on educating our public. I want to make sure it's spent on educating our public. The $8 million of land worth they bought here hasn't educated a person since they paid for it 10 years ago. Not a single person. Meanwhile, they spent $34 million in Morgan Hill, plus a $10 million loan they were scheduled to give them. Whether it went through or not, I don't know yet, which would have been $44 million. They never intended to build an education center down here. It was a lie. How do I know that? Because their entire planning budget for the education center here was less than $7,000. Less than $7,000. You can't build a garage for less than $7,000 of planning budget. It was all a big sham. So I hope people will vote to spend money here for a facility. for the new library and community center we need here in this community, not in Morgan Hill, where they have our money. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Christina Wyatt.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Christina Chavez Wyatt, Farmhouse Communications of Hollister, California, here on behalf of the EDC of San Benito County. I brought this evening 5 resource bonders, including a presentation of the draft comprehensive economic development strategy that's been produced for San Benito County, but it does cover the incorporated cities of Hollister and San Juan Bautista. I've compiled these resource materials for you and coming with a request to be placed on a future agenda to present the draft SEDS to you. It will also be presented to the county for approval in advance of going to the Federal Economic Development Administration with the intention of going after large-scale grants for job creation, which includes infrastructure and economic development programming. Some materials included in these presentation binders including a draft presentation, which is a brief executive overview, a full copy of the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy in draft form, a copy of the CalEd Local Economic Advisory Program assessment that was conducted last year, including economic development potential strategies for San Benito County, Hollister, and San Juan Bautista. The training slides that were included by the California Office of Local Economic Development for their local elected officials training and staff that was conducted in January of this year. The 2011 EDC Strategic Plan, 2012 San Benito County Opportunities Analysis, and some general descriptions of business organizations that are active in San Benito County. They're both local and regional for your information. I was speaking to City Manager Aver in advance of the meeting. October 2nd would be fantastic. If you could place us on the agenda in advance of the cannabis items, it would be greatly appreciated. I will also place all of these items in PDF form for the public, provide them to staff, and post them on a website we've created for the Workforce Development Board. It's called businessinsanbenito.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Elias Salinas.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council persons. My name is Elia Salinas, and I am here to respectfully request the city contemplate looking into seeking employment of a full-time city attorney. This is absolutely no disrespect whatsoever to City Attorney Soren Diaz. I know him to be an extremely ethical attorney. That being said, there are numerous issues before the city that cause him to recuse himself. In my opinion, the city should seek candidates with experience in municipal law, land use, labor law, business, and corporate law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maribela Ramos.
Hi, Mayor. Hi. I just want to say thank you, and I do apologize about my mouth. And I just want to talk about the homeless, giving us 90 days at the river. I see that today you guys it was picked up, the garbage, and I thank you so much for that. I'm not trying to do any harm to anybody, I'm just trying to, I don't know why I'm doing it, but I just want to just be clean, I guess. It's good therapy for me, though. It does keep me away from the ugliness, By me doing this, I'm willing to help them out, too, at the same time. They do need another chance. By, another chance of learning how to, somebody could just give them an hour a job, just pull them out and just say, you know what, here, come and work with me, or do something for me, just give them a chance, I am homeless myself, which I'm not homeless, I do have family, but I chose to be homeless, it's not a chosen that I want, but I know there's a way out from this situation, and I know that I've been having a big mouth and yelling and screaming, but I have a lot of issues that I have, but I just want to apologize, and I do thank you for the garbage, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Ramos. Thank you.
There are no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll move to item D, City Manager's report.
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay, we move to item E1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Good evening. The City of Hollister is the lead agency for the environmental work pursuant to CEQA for the Crosstown Pipeline Project. The proposed project is intended to ultimately improve water supply and water quality in the Hollister area. And this is in collaboration with the Sunny Slope County Water District and San Benito County Water District as well. The Crosstown Pipeline would connect with San Benito County Water District's West Hills water treatment plant and its treated water pipeline. Alignment would begin in the vicinity of City Well number 5 near Nash Road and Homestead Avenue, and terminate at the Sunny Slope County Water District Well number 11, located on Southside Road near the intersection of Union Road. So the entire length of all pipeline stretches of the proposed project would result in a total length of approximately 2.5 miles. Thank you so much, Christina. I really appreciate it. I just have a map of the. It's in your report as well. Substantial evidence in light of the whole record that the project, with mitigation measures incorporated, may have a significant effect on the environment. Thank you so much. There it is. As you can see, right where the red and the blue meet there, that's Nash and Homestead Avenue. So it's going to go approximately 500 feet to the east, right behind Quail Run, and it's going to go to the south a few hundred feet and connect all the way to San Benito Street, behind the high school where the light blue line is connect. That's where it's going to fork. The light blue line, Abundance and Well number 2, crossing to Cienega Road, and then that blue line is going to go to the south, to Southside Road, and then towards the east, passing through Ladd Lane School, all the way down south, crossing Union Road through by Southside Road. So like I said, it's about 2.5 miles stretch. Again, the mitigated negative declaration was prepared in accordance with CEQA. There's no substantial evidence in light of the whole record that the project, with mitigation measures incorporated, may have a significant effect on the environment. Therefore, staff recommends that the City Council adopt Resolution 2017-233, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister approving the Crosstown Pipeline Mitigated Negative Declaration and Monitoring and Reporting Program. Are there any questions for staff?
Any questions from council? No questions? This time we're going to open it for a public hearing. Do you have any speakers?
No, Mr. Mayor.
This time we'll close public hearing. Any other questions or comments from council? Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
The motion is second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Move to item F1.
Ray made the motion, Carson second.
Good evening, Mayor Velasquez and council members. This resolution 2017-234 would approve an amendment reallocating the costs of traffic impact fees from new development. The current traffic impact fees were derived from the San Benito County Council of Governments 2016 Regional Transportation Impact Fee Nexus Study. The study includes a list of 15 projects as well as intersection and bicycle improvements. The amendments proposed to the impact fees maintain the projects covered in the 2016 study. What it would do, it would reallocate the cost for what each type of development would pay. There would be a higher proportion of fees allocated to residential development because they contribute peak hour trips to commute corridors such as Highway 156, Highway 25, Union Road, and they would also contribute trips to residential serving streets such as Westside Boulevard and North Street. The City Council probably recalls that they approved a resolution last November approving a professional services contract with Wildan Financial to reevaluate the traffic impact fees. This was part of an incentive package that was approved to retain Technova here in Hollister. The draft fee schedule revision was reviewed by the City Council at the last meeting, and staff was directed to prepare a resolution for adoption of amendment of the fees. Staff's recommending that the City Council approve Resolution 2017-234. Are there any questions?
Any questions from council? No questions? Do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Bob Tiffany.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Bob Tiffany, longtime resident business owner, also the president of the San Benito County Business Council. I just wanted to say that I think that the resolution to adopt revision to the impact fees makes a lot of sense. It places a greater burden on residential growth, which clearly creates the largest impact on the roads, and it reduces the fees on commercial and industrial growth, whether it be through expansion of an existing business like we saw recently with Technova, or through the attraction of a new business to the city. We badly need more good-paying jobs in this community, and anything we can do to encourage companies to expand or to come here is a very good thing in Hollister. Job growth will not only help our overall economy, but it will allow more people to both live and work here, reducing the number of commuters and the impact they have on our roads. The Business Council would like to commend the City Council and city staff for actively trying to support job growth through this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Marty Richmond.
Good evening again, Marty Richmond from Hollister. I've spoken and written on this subject many times. I'd like to use this opportunity to try and educate the public and give them my opinion. And the education is this: impact fees are not get-ahead fees. They are get-even fees. You can't get ahead just using impact fees. All they do is give you the maximum allowable legal charge for the impacts of whatever it is you're putting in, whether it be commercial or residential or whatever. So they are just get-even fees. So therefore, to get ahead, we cannot just use impact fees. We have to have development agreements. I mentioned that once before. I know that's not the main subject, but I think it's important that people know that. Using the impact fees for residences alone, the 14 impact fee projects that are on the road net right now at COG would take 13,000 homes just to fund the impact fee portion. Now, everybody knows that's ridiculous. We're not getting 13,000 homes between now and 2035. So therefore, that means we can't do those projects unless we find another way to fund the road system. It's that simple and it's that straightforward. So for people to sit around, and there are many of them who go, don't worry, the impact fees will take care of it. The impact fees don't take care of anything but the impacts of either the residential home or the business that goes in. I agree with the previous speaker. Impacts on business often reduce the amount of traffic that are sitting on 25 because the workers are here. Less people leave town to shop, whereas residential traffic normally picks up because the better jobs still exist in San Clara County and people get on the road to go to work. But you know, realistically, 25, as miserable as it is only really miserable 4 hours a day. The rest of the time you can go fly up 25 with no problem whatsoever. So it's all about when we use it, the peak hours. If we want to improve our access to 25 through Union Road, improve our access to 156, through Union Road, and improve the access to 25, we have got to do something about the feeder streets that are within the purview of the county and the city. And the only way to do that reasonably is to get full value for permission to develop. And that means talk to the developers and say, here's what we need. What do you offer? Doing a development agreement with trained personnel, and you got to have trained personnel, means that you have an opportunity to get ahead, not just get even. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
There are no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Gilio.
Just a quick comment. I think it's important. I see Mr. Chadwell from Benito Link. I'm hoping Nick's here somewhere. I don't see him from freelance. I think this is important to get out in the media that Hollister's open for business. We're actively trying to encourage businesses to come here to create new high-paying jobs, as well as keep traffic off our roadway. So I'm hoping that this gets picked up and gets out there, because we really want to encourage businesses to come to our region. That's all. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Clower.
My heart breaks a little bit that the multifamily is going up, and now we've seen there's nothing we can really do about that. I think that that's going to continue to hurt our middle income earners and our low income earners. But I do think this is a really big step forward for us. When you look at them as per 1,000 square feet amounts, it doesn't look like a whole lot, but when you realize how big some of these proposed buildings are, it should really change some people's minds, I hope. And along those lines, do we have a plan or a process on how we're going to reach back out to people who maybe came to the planning department and found out that it was really expensive to build here and then disappeared? Because it's one thing to change it, but if no one knows about it, it doesn't really make any difference. So I think we need to come up with something to get back out there and get a hold of these people who came and showed interest at some point.
We can work on that. We've also, when we've been talking to potential businesses, we've been telling them that we've been working on this. Mm-hmm. And I have to say it went slower than we hoped. Part of the bog down was trying to see if we could bring the multifamily down, and it didn't work.
Well, thank you for your efforts, Mary.
All right, any other comment? Councilmember Luna.
Yeah, I think, and the positive way of looking at this is that if we don't do this now, then when? And I think that we've come to the point with the city that the traffic impact fees are going to help. So we are a city open for business. We are a city that encourages business to come in. We are not a city that I'll get you plan. And we want to make that very clear to the residents of San Benito County and the city of Hollister that the city of Hollister is open for business and we welcome businesses. And therefore, doing something like this at this time is the time to do it. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion, is there a
second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Motion
you.
carries. 5-0 vote. Move to item F2.
Good evening. This next item is requesting approval for amendment number 5 to the professional services agreement with Development and Public Finance LLC to assist the city with the formation of a community facility district to fund ongoing fire and police services. The proposal would allow DPF to assist the city in preparing a cost analysis and form the CFD. In this case, will be CFD 5, which will take over CFD 2 in case if it gets approved.
Okay. Are there any questions from council? Vice Mayor Clower.
From a process question, maps that have already been approved, will they pick up CFD 5 or they stay with CFD 2?
CFD 2.
Okay, so just if we approve this and everything going forward would be CFD 5. It's not.
Assuming,
correct.
Well, at first you would approve this, they would do the nexus study with it, and then from that point forward, once you establish the district, then from then forward, any new residential would be part of CFD 5.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
So, I guess the same as the procedural question is adding a District 6. We can't just expand District 5. We have to add.
This would be 5.
Yeah, I mean, the 4 we have, we can't expand them. We have to create another district to improve these fees, or is that what we're doing?
Correct. So in this case, the consultant will just find out what police and fire services will cost up to date, because everything changes, everything gets more expensive. So essentially, they're going to do a cost analysis to find out what is the current rate and what is the appropriate tax rate that we will be putting on property owners compared to what we have currently with CFD2.
Okay, so it's just to improve the other.
Yeah, so CFD.
We can't change the other 4?
No, because those are locked.
Yeah, they're locked in with specific language, and for this council, I believe CFD2 was created in 1994, 95?
94.
94. So it's basically just been working on a CPI for the last 23 years. So this is our opportunity to sort of reevaluate, get the true cost of services in today's dollars, and then start fresh. And then CFDA 5 would likely go for 5 or 10 years, and then you'd probably want to reevaluate and come up with a new one. But every time you do a new district, it should be a new district.
Okay. Do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Is there a motion?
So I'll make the motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Before we move to item F3, I noticed there's quite a few students in here tonight. So if you want to, we will take a 5-minute break if it's okay with the council. And if you guys want to hang around, that's great. If you want to have your paperwork signed, you can leave. That's okay too. All right, everyone, we're going to resume the meeting now. We're going to move forward to item F3. At this point, I'm going to recuse myself as I own the property next door to this property. I will return the gavel over to Vice Mayor Clower.
So, who's handling the item? Christine, you're up. Double duty tonight.
So this is basically the City Clerk's office received a referendum petition entitled "A Referendum Against a Petition Passed by the City Council, Resolution Number 2017-139, hereinafter called the petition." On July 11, 2017, a 500-signature random sampling was completed by the San Benito County Registrar of Voters per Elections Code Section 9115. The random sample shows that the petition fell within 95 to 110% of the number of signatures of qualified voters needed to declare the petition sufficient, giving the elections official 60 days, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, to examine and verify signatures, which is October 4th, 2017. The verification of signatures was conducted by the San Benito County Registrar of Voters. Due to the absence of the city clerk, time was needed for the interim city clerk to examine and review the petition and become familiar with the matter and applicable laws. The interim city clerk examined the petition and was able to provide the attached certificate finding the petition sufficient and the memorandum to council within the required time frame. At this point, staff recommends that the City Council receives the memorandum, certificate of sufficiency of petition, and motion to adopt Resolution Number 2017-236, accepting the City Clerk's final certification of the sufficiency of the referendum petition, and provide staff further direction.
Okay. Are there any questions from the council in regards to the proposed resolution?
Yes. The question I have, or just clarification that I have, is the financial impact.
Financial
on
impact?
the report.
To date.
So actually the cost to conduct the signature verification was $3,168.79 that the city
correct.
will have to pay.
That's, yeah.
Okay. And then, in addition, should an election be held, the cost ranges from $25,000 to $200,000.
That is correct.
There's a range there. Is there any definite in-between number that we may be looking at?
The range is based on, depending on what council chooses. If council chooses, we have 3 options at this point for elections. And your election options, I place them in order of how I would recommend them. Your election options, number 1 would be our next regular municipal election, which would be November 6th, 2018. It's the general municipal election. Estimated cost would be $25,000 to $30,000. The resolution deadline requesting this of the San Benito County elections official is August 10th, 2018, and staff recommends this option. We could also choose, council could also choose consolidated special election for June 5th, 2018. If we chose consolidated special election with statewide primary, the estimated cost is $40,000 to $50,000. The resolution deadline requesting this of the San Benito County elections official is March 9th, 2018. The third recommendation, which is the most expensive, is April 10th, 2018, which is an overtime special election due to the June primary. The estimated cost is over $200,000. The resolution deadline requesting this of the San Benito County elections official is January 12th, 2018.
So you did say a special election in April. That would cost over $200,000.
That is correct.
So my question to our city manager is whether it's $25,000 or $200,000 or even over $200,000, that comes out of the general fund?
Oh yes, yes. That's a general fund expense.
It's a general fund expense. What would impact our general fund and in review of our budget on actually projects that we have aligned already, that would impact them negatively?
It would either pull money from projects that you may have already approved, or you would be dipping further into your reserve, your general fund reserves to pay for those expenses, the election expense.
So the city reserve at this time is for transparency purposes of the public?
Well, the council's goal is always to have at least I think a 15% general fund reserve, but Brett, is about $2 million is in reserve.
20%.
I'm sorry. So 20. Yeah, I was going to say I almost died there. So the council's general fund reserve should be 20% of your annual general fund budget, and I believe our general fund reserves right now are about $5 million.
Correct.
About
$5 million.
Yeah.
Okay. Further, any clarification exactly on what is being recommended by legal counsel at this time? I just want the public to understand.
Yes, Councilwoman Luna. There is a pending issue that's being addressed by the Attorney General's office with regard as to whether the referendum covers a proper lawful subject that is allowed to be challenged via referendum, i.e., usually only referendums that challenge a legislative act are allowed to be placed on a ballot for election purposes. And there's an issue as to whether the referendum in this particular instance addresses a legislative act as opposed to an administrative act. So the question is being determined as we speak by the Attorney General's office, and we anticipate receiving an opinion, a formal opinion, which is citable in court from the Attorney General's office within the next 30 days, hopefully.
Okay.
I hope I've answered your question.
Partially answers my question.
Councilmember Luna?
Yeah, thank you.
I believe the reason we recommended the November 6th, 2018 general municipal election would be that it's the most cost-effective approach, as the city would already be calling for elections for council members in council districts 2, 3, 4, mayor, and city treasurer. Was that the answer you were looking
at? That cost again would be
$25,000 to $30,000.
25,000.
25,000 to 30,000.
To 30,000. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Friend, any comments or questions?
I think I better not, because in my opinion, the referendum is illegal. It was spearheaded by somebody who has to recuse himself because he has a conflict of interest, both financially and he lives close to it. And it was built on lies, so I'm not supporting any of this.
Okay, Councilmember Gilio.
I'm a dollars and cents person, and the rules, and I also believe that we need to represent the people that we represent, right? We need to speak with the folks, and I want to definitely hear everybody. We have a big crowd tonight, and I want to hear everybody that is here to speak before I make my final decision. Let me make a couple of statements. So I did a fiscal analysis of the project, and let's just assume that the project was valued at $10 million. And actually, when I say I did it, I mean I asked staff to do it, and staff provided me the information because I saw Mary sitting in the background back there, so thank you, Mary, very much. I worked with staff on this. We met a couple of times. I met with the city manager. I met with Mary today. So the bottom line is this. There's a few revenue streams that come out of this project. One is property tax. That's the lion's share of the revenue. And over the next 20 years, for example, let's just say based on a $10 million project, we have it as low as $7 million, and we have it as high as $15 million, depending on what the final project is assessed at. Just the schools alone, and this is the County Office of Education, the Hollister Elementary School District, and the San Benito High School. And for those of you that don't know, just really quick, RDA, Redevelopment Agency, back before 2011, before we were raided by the state and took all of our RDA property and took all our money from RDA, we had to close RDAs down. We had to create an agency called the Successor Agency, and that agency is now required to dispose of all of the property that is within the Successor Agency, and we have a few lots within the city. And we're not exactly sure, I don't think, of an exact deadline of when we have to dispose of all that property, but it's there, it's real, and the consequences of not disposing are blocking your CDBG funds, and we're going to talk about some of those later on. That's Community Development Block Grant Funds. So that's one of the repercussions that the state can take on you, and I believe there's others that I'm not educated on. So right now there's I think, is it 8 agencies total without counting, or is it 7? 7 or 8 agencies, and some of those are the Santa Clara Equalization Aid, Gavilan Junior College, San Benito High School, Hollister Elementary School, County Office of Education, the Hospital District, Water Districts, and of course San Benito County, all essentially own that property together. It's technically in the city of Hollister's name, but when that property sold, the sales profits of the assessed value will go to all those agencies. Now, all those agencies are, the city council through many years, this goes back, I believe, 28 or 29 years, and is alignment with the downtown long-range property management plan, have planned to develop this project. Now this project is valued at, I'm thinking conservatively, $10 million. So here's what that means in real dollars in 20 years. So for the school district alone, it means $1.268 million. For the remainder of the parties, it means $1.608 million. 1.6 mil for all the other people to divide, 1.2 for the schools. That's a huge chunk of change that we're going to be giving up if this property is not developed and utilized. So I don't know how we reconcile that. I don't know if we're going to be liable for that in the future. I've asked that question and I haven't got a good answer, because I think people agree that one attorney will tell you one thing, another attorney will tell you another thing, and this is obviously something that hasn't been litigated yet. So I think we're going to end up in court over this if we decide not to give those agencies those property tax dollars. I don't know how that's going to shake out. So that's one thing we need to figure out. That doesn't come to talk about any of the sales tax that's going to be generated by the businesses that are down there. I've heard, and some of this may be confidential, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of large businesses that are really interested in a new building. I hear a lot of times about vacancy rates and downtown issues, and there's high vacancy rates. Well, if you look at the buildings that are vacant, they're unreinforced masonry buildings that maybe the property owners haven't brought up to code, and people don't want to have a nice store in. If you look at, for example, where Fisher's Restaurant is, I think that's called the Clower Building. I believe that's 100% occupied. Across the street, new building occupied. If you look at all these buildings that are up to code and nice, they're occupied. So that's one of the things I wanted to mention about that. And as far as putting this out to an election, so we had, unfortunately, as Mr. Friend said, we had somebody that passed around a referendum for folks to sign, and I believe personally that a lot of folks are acting on emotion. They weren't thinking about the other side of this. There's a lot of law, there's a lot of financial backing that the council has to consider when making these decisions, and I feel horrible for these people that were maybe misled and didn't get the whole facts when they were signing this petition. Now, that being said, there are 1,660 verified signatures on this petition. I believe that's 10% of our last election results. Is that right? Correct. So 10% of the people who last voted in our last election have signed this petition, and they have an expectation that they're going to be able to vote on this piece of property. And I think if we as a council are to rescind our resolution tonight, I think that's not going to do anybody any good tonight. I think that there's a valid project that's down there. I know that there's a lot of support in the community for this, and I think that we ought to consider pushing this out to an election. And I understand the cost is great. $25,000 to $30,000 is nothing to sneeze at. That's a ton of money. It's half of a police car for the chief or some cameras for the downtown. I mean, it's a lot of money. But the situation that we're in, that's the route that I think we ought to go, barring I want to hear what the public and the community have to say tonight before I make my final decision. Thank you for the time, and sorry I was so long-winded.
Councilmember Friend?
Excuse me, Jim. I don't believe there's anything on the agenda that rescinds anything. All we're here to do is accept the report to the city clerk.
Well, yeah, there was a couple options that are presented in here. It says give staff direction, I believe, and there's two directions. Is that correct? One direction is to rescind a resolution, and one direction is to push it to a vote. Those are the two staff recommended options, right? To give staff direction.
That is correct.
That's my understanding.
And then I would come back at the next council meeting with a resolution for you, however you direct me to go.
Are there any other comments from council at the moment? Okay, I think this would be the time to open it up to the public. I
would just kind of like to throw it out there that this is about accepting the certification and then giving direction. It's not necessarily about the merits of the project or any other project. So if we can kind of stick to what you'd like us to do in terms of moving forward with what's in front of us right now, that would be great. Thank you.
I have a few speakers. Would you like, I have 7. Do you want me to call them up 2 at a time?
Sure.
Okay. Michael Kelly and Julie Vieira.
Good evening, City Council. Michael Kelly. I live on 5th Street, and I'm a county employee, but I'm only speaking as a resident alone. And I think I might be veering into the territory of speaking about the merits of the project. So I could just step aside, but I don't have so much to say about what the have an election or rescind the resolution or not. It's just that the question of whether this is going to be a useful project is still, a matter that is still in effect, and I happen to think that it's not going to be a very useful project to have. I'm talking about the open space, that is. I don't think it's a very useful proposition to have an open space on this property for reasons of necessity and for reasons of just usefulness of this. It would be one of 3 plaza type spaces in the distance of 3 blocks or 4 blocks, that being the courthouse and the Veterans Memorial Building. And I don't know what this space is going to do that those other spaces don't do or could not do. And for various reasons, I could go on about this, but I just don't think the space lends itself well to be a quality public space. Largely, it's about the blank walls. I don't think that's going to offer much life for this space, and just not enough activity around it because of the quality of the space there. So I would personally favor that this space be built, because I don't see that it's going to be a useful place to have a public open space. I could go on about this, but I don't have anything to say about whether to have an election or rescind the resolution, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Julie Vieira from the San Benito County Chamber of Commerce. I just want to remind you all that you just said, most of you, we are open for business. So the City of Hollister is open for business, and this 400 block is a business activity, what is being proposed. So I hope that you go forward with what you guys already voted on, 401, to proceed with the project. This has been going on for a while. I know that I want to address one thing that was put out there on Facebook, that the chamber was bought off because we get funding from the Community Foundation, and the Community Foundation is part of this project. That is not right. The Community Foundation has not funded the Chamber of Commerce since 2014. So we have no skin in the game where that is concerned. What we are concerned about is businesses in our downtown area and revitalizing the downtown. As you said, all of the buildings that have been redone or rebuilt due to fire or earthquake are all 100% occupied. This building, they already have people who are interested. They have nonprofits that provide services for our community that will be in it, and I think it's a good project, and we do support it, and we hope that you will go forward with your original decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Tiffany and Kay Felice.
Good evening once again. I'm feeling like Marty all of a sudden. You know, I'm afraid I'm going to probably talk a little bit about the merits of this project, because I'm very passionate about seeing this 400 block project come to fruition. As some of you know, I was the president of the Downtown Association at the time of the Loma Prieta earthquake, and I personally saw these buildings come down at the 400 block due to the earthquake. So the downtown has been waiting 28 years for a project like this to come along. 28 years. And it's not just any development. This is an outstanding one, which includes badly needed downtown housing and a wonderful philanthropic center. This philanthropic center will house the Community Foundation for San Benito County, which, by the way, granted out almost $1.5 million to other nonprofits and people in need last year. The center will also be the home for other outstanding nonprofit organizations like the United Way for San Benito County, CASA, and Emmaus House. This philanthropic center, if built, will surely encourage more giving in this community, something that is needed here, very badly needed here. So after a very long wait, we have an outstanding project built by local builders that will both revitalize downtown Hollister and help those with the greatest need in our community. In any other city, this project would be fully embraced. I truly hope that in the very near future, our community will support this project as well. I strongly encourage the council to not rescind this project and to fully support it going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. I'm Kay Felice. I've lived in Hollister for 40 years, so I've watched our downtown go through its ups and its downs. I think that you'll all agree, and that everybody here will agree, that every constituent that you have and all the residents of Hollister truly want the best for our downtown. That's all that we're all interested in. It's a matter of what is the best for our downtown. I think that's based on the facts, and I think we have to look at the facts. I think you did that. And I think you did your due diligence. You talked to people, you talked to your constituents, you looked at the plans, you looked at the resources. Obviously, Council Gillio laid it out very clearly tonight. You've looked at the fiscal side of it and the fiscal responsibilities that you have, that we all have to our community. That's one side of the story. Those are the facts. And you made your decision based on those facts. I want to point out an experience that I had a couple of weeks ago. I was at a ball game, a flag football game at Rancho, and with some friends watching children play ball. There were two young girls that passed out a petition to all the people in the stands throughout the ball game. They had no idea what they were passing out. I very respectfully asked them what the 400 block was about. They had no idea. They knew it was very bad for the downtown, very, very bad for the downtown. And that's all that they knew. But they were putting this petition in front of parent after parent after parent who were trying to watch their kids play ball. The parents weren't really concerned with it and weren't getting any information. This is misinformation. This is false information. This is no way to base a decision. So there may be 1,600 verified signatures, but how many of those 1,600 people knew what they were voting on? So I think this is something that when you're looking for the facts, you need to think about this side of the story. This is a golden opportunity. I'm not going to reiterate what Mr. Tiffany just said, but it's a golden opportunity. How many communities have a beautiful philanthropic center dropped in their lap? I mean, we've turned down some pretty nice projects in this area. This is one we can't afford to reject. It's everything that we've been waiting for 20 years. It is the cornerstone. It is the anchor. It's what's going to bring business. It's going to bring people into the downtown. Evidently, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and people don't understand how valuable this is. But you do, and I do, and most of the people here do. And so I just think it's really important that we don't let one small group of people that maybe don't have all the information, not through any fault of their own, but who don't have the information, go a different direction and cause you to change your mind. So basically, that's all I have to say. I just think it's a great opportunity, and I would hate to see us. We'll regret it for the rest of our lives if we don't take this opportunity now.
Thank you.
Victoria Montoya and Ellen Leitnan.
My name is Victoria Montoya. I live on 1671 Central Avenue. And I guess listening to the education right now, I can see what you guys are pointing at. And I have one suggestion, and I don't know, I was in San Diego, and there was a corner that was almost like the one we have here. And what they did, they developed condos upstairs and stores down below. So students could use, because it's by San Diego State. And so they put Trader Joe and all these other cafes and stuff like underneath. In my world, I was thinking of a plaza like most of the southern states that have plazas everywhere, but now it's not going to happen. So I'm thinking ahead like you guys are, that business is good for some people, and when we don't know the whole facts, you're right. I signed the petition because I wanted something beautiful and green, but it's not going to happen. But the thing is, if you're going to create something, do it where you have space for people to sit, people to park, people to enjoy whatever you put in there, because condos by itself, it doesn't work. You have to put other business in there where people can come and buy and eat and stuff like that, because the Gavilan College is right behind it, and that's going to be a problem. The parking is not that great. Public transportation is also something that has to be done, because people that live farther where I live on the Via Hermosa, they need to come and do business here by the corner. But you have to create something where people can come in the middle of the day. So my comment is build it beautiful so everybody can share it, because otherwise only a few will benefit from it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Ellen Leitinen, and I'm a local Hollister resident. And I'd like to ditto what everyone has just spoken in the last few speakers that we've had. I'm very much in support of the resolution that you went forward with in your original decision. I think that this is an amazing opportunity for this community that's really going to benefit us in several ways, everything from housing to the philanthropic to business. I think it's an amazing opportunity. I'd like to thank Councilman Gilio for your due diligence to really get that information out to us. I also agree that if more information had gotten out about what's really been going on here, I think people really would have voted a lot differently. I really believe that. I've also heard of some of the concerns about wanting to preserve that space downtown. And I feel very concerned about that, because the way it's being presented on Facebook is that we can have this wonderful event center and it's going to be a staging area for all these things. But what I don't hear is I don't hear a solid plan in place. I don't hear who's going to pay for it. That's what I don't hear about it. And the concern that I have is that now you're in a position where you're having to decide what to do. I would like to encourage you, if we could wait for that state attorney's decision so that we don't have to go through an election, I would really appreciate that. Personally, I don't really like the fact that we're going to have to spend a minimum, from all the different quotes that came up tonight, a minimum of $25,000 to decide this, when that money could be going towards other projects that we already have in place. To me, that is a waste of the funds. And I know that that's not your fault, but I don't like that position that we are in as a city. So I guess my one encouragement to you is there any way that we could wait for that Attorney General's decision so that maybe that could just settle the issue and we could just move forward? Thank you.
Thank you.
Marty Richmond and Richard Ferreira.
Good evening, Marty Richmond from Hollister. I feel like Bob Tiffany. I don't look like Bob Tiffany. I'm not that good looking, and I'm not that well spoken. So I have a question. If we go ahead and certify for an election in 2018, the least expensive option, $25,000. And the judgment comes down from the Attorney General that this is not election. Can we back out? That's my first question. Well, I'm not getting an answer, so I'll go on.
We'll address it after Mr. Smith.
Okay. So if we can back out, then you should do what the law requires. And if the law requires that you certify this for election, you should do so. I do think, I do appreciate Councilmember Gilio's having the staff do the research. He did, I believe, leave out a significant cost factor, which is even if you don't look toward future costs, if we do not sell that property, I believe we will owe somewhere in the neighborhood of $260,000, somewhere in that neighborhood, to those taxing entities, whether it be 7 entities or 8 entities, because I understand the sale price was going to be $300,000 or thereabouts, and we were going to get 40. So that means $260 is going to somebody else. So this is not a zero-sum game. Even if the folks who oppose the project prevail, we go to an election, and that's $25,000. We already dumped $3,100 and change. We dump another $25,000, and they win. The first thing we're going to do is hand them a bill for $260,000, because the school is not going to say, I don't care, and the cemetery district is not going to say, I don't care, and the water district is not going to say, I don't care. Everybody who has a taxing share of that property is going to be owed the value, their portion of the value, whether it's the county or whoever it is. So I think we left that out. I'm not going to talk about what I think the project should be. I think that's a separate issue, and I appreciate that, and there'll be appropriate time at the right time to talk about that. But I am going to say we're going to follow the law, whatever the law is, and if we have the option of taking it back off, sweeping it back off the calendar, if the Attorney General says this is not subject to this vote, then I think you should go ahead and certify it to go on the election. And I don't read Facebook, so I am never insulted by what is on it. And I recommend to many people that they take my attitude. They may not like it, but it does work. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Would you like to answer those questions? Richard, hang on a second.
Sure, Councilman Frenda, there was a couple of questions posed, and the first question is, yes, the City Council does have the option to file a post-election challenge seeking a judicial determination of the validity of the measure. So that's an option, and then there's a case that cites for that proposition. It's the City of Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena Airport Authority case, which is a 2003 case. So that is definitely an option.
Mr. City Attorney, can you clarify that a little bit? My understanding is that sounds like post-election, challenging the election results, but let's just say tonight that for sake of argument, option 1 is taken. We put this on the ballot for November. Let's say the Attorney General takes longer than 30 days because he told us one thing already and it took longer. So let's say it takes till March of next year. Can we then essentially, is there a process for us to cancel and take that off the ballot before the ballots are printed? So it doesn't even get voted on.
Once the ballots are turned over to the county registrar's office, the only way that I would be able to do that, or the city would be able to do that, would be via a court order.
I'm talking before that, I'm sorry, sir. Before that, before we turn, what's the date? You said August? If this is the, if it goes to a November election, we have August 10th? August 10th, we have to turn in all the stuff to the county. I'm talking before that.
You're talking about August 2018, correct?
Yeah, I'm talking March of 2018.
Yes.
We get an opinion back from the Attorney General. This whole thing's illegal. We shouldn't have done what we're doing. What's the process to take it off of the consideration for an election?
Yeah, you would basically at that point in time, as long as you haven't submitted it to the county registers, you would be able to reconsider the matter and take into consideration the opinion of the Attorney General and make that decision at that time.
Thank you, sir.
Is it specifically tied to this, or can we wrap up public comment?
I would like a clarification of that.
Okay.
reading the resolution before us. All we were doing is accepting the report from the city council. We are not deciding to do anything other than accept that report
From the city clerk.
from the city clerk.
That is correct. So
We're
once
not
you
deciding to send it to ballot. We're not deciding to send it no one to ballot or just do nothing.
that is correct,
All we're doing is accepting the city clerk's report on the count on the ballot.
as you are required to do by law.
Okay. Go ahead, Rich. I'm sorry.
Richard Ferrer. I'm a principal of one of the large commercial buildings in downtown, and I was fortunate enough to be able to build 2 of the earthquake damaged lots with buildings, and all 3 of those buildings are fully occupied to date. The main thing here is economics, and what the majority of these people that are against the building on that 400 block weren't around when there were 28 viable businesses at that location before the earthquake, which was bringing in a lot of tax dollars, supporting our community, and was a lot of jobs were filled there. Also, I've been attending all these meetings on this place. The majority of the people that come up here and argue against the project weren't even born when the earthquake hit. They didn't know about the 28 business. They don't hear. I'm a 5th generation San Benito County resident, and I knew what viable downtown is. That's the way we grew up. Now, you people, the way I look at it, you guys were elected by the group. You made a decision. You should back that decision. I know this is up before you. I've been to a lot of the meetings. I've seen a lot of agenda items just discontinued for more information. Why don't you discontinue this agenda item to further on down the line until we hear from the Attorney General and get it? Can you, okay, I don't know, I asked the city attorney, can you just continue it to the next meeting or a couple meetings? You do it all the time. Why can't you just do it? Let everybody yell and scream and whatever. That's a question I'd like to answer. But this is nothing but economics, and I'm sure, why should we spend all this money when we've got viable projects? And like I said, the ones that have been arguing for it, like Kay told us, she had these little girls out there, they have no clue what a downtown. Economics is what we got in, and you made the right economic choice when you approved that sale and the project at the first time, and I applaud you for that, and stick by your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elias Salinas and Roland Resendez.
Good evening, City Council persons. I was actually born before 1989, but thank you very much. I was against this project. I'm still against this project, but I respect the decision of the City Council, and I lost. That being said, in my opinion, I believe that it's in the city's best interest to wait until we get the opinion from the Attorney General's office. There is no hurry, and we will save money. I don't like cities to get into lawsuits, and it's spending the taxpayers' dollars into something that I think is ridiculous. I think we should wait. There's no hurry. We have until April is the cheapest. March was $200,000. Otherwise, you have until August of next year. So you have 6 months between now and maybe April when you need to make some kind of an important decision. I think within those 6 months, you're going to get the opinion from the Attorney General's office. And I think that's the most economical and smartest decision to do, is to wait. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Roland Resendez. I am a resident of the city of Hollister. I, too, was born before 1989. I remember the earthquake very well. I want to point out that a lot of things have changed since then, including social media. I think that it's kind of an intimidating process, even for me now, to come up here and to be engaged in the local government political arena, I would say. for any everyday citizen, especially in a bedroom community that we live in and we reside in. A lot of people are stuck in traffic. They use social media. They're using Facebook Live. They're using all these new ways of communicating and engaging with one another. I think that's important to keep in mind for you to pay attention to that possibly and to start representing your constituents. Having said that, I think that one of the things that has not really been mentioned is that I've heard a lot of money about the cost of a special election, this and that, and how much it's going to cost the people. I feel like the thing that hasn't been emphasized enough is that you have a choice. If a referendum is done, that you can rescind your decision. You can listen to the constituents, to the people that signed that petition, and you can rescind the decision. That's why those processes are in place, and that allows for everyday citizens like myself to take part in this type of a government agency. There's a lot of distrust nowadays on a national level, on a local level, between the government and the constituents. I see that a lot on social media as well. I see that there's a disconnect from people coming out and speaking to you and engaging with you guys, and I really, really implore you to take a look at that and to listen to it. Listen to the people's voices. Listen to the action that's been taken, because that's why those processes are put in place. Having said that, I think there's nothing else I'd wanted to say other than that. So thank you for your time. I want to save the 400 block, keep the space open. And again, times have changed. There was a viable downtown. We're moving towards more pedestrian-friendly, biker-friendly environment. And I think that's going to boost the economic development downtown, not putting another building with condominiums there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
There are no more speakers, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll bring it back to the council for comments and questions. Councilmember Luna?
Yes, and I do want to say I was born way before that time. In fact, I was in this building, 504, and I got locked in downstairs. It was another employee and myself that we were locked in. We didn't know if the building was going to come down or go sideways, but we were here. Finally, we were able to get out, and I saw the building on 4th Street come down. We saw all the rubble. We saw the title company glass come down. We were in the middle of it. The following days, you couldn't come into City Hall. I was the one that opened the door every other night or weekends for then Congressman Leon Panetta, because he brought in all the agencies, the federal agencies. They were all in this room. It was still shaking, and they were here. And I remember going out there and volunteering because we couldn't do anything at City Hall. The cabinets were all on top of each other and everything. The only place that we could go downstairs is when the earthquake agency came down, and nobody would help them. And I had a flashlight, and I was on top of boxes while they read the meter downstairs. And I can remember that, and it was still shaking. I walked the city with the American Red Cross and with the Salvation Army. Nobody was there with me that I can see here today, but I can remember some of your faces in town. Nobody was standing there next to me when actually the state of California allowed the city to come in with all the construction, with the tractors, the bulldozers. But nobody was standing next to Chester Fong of the New China Cafe like I was. That man cried when he saw his kitchen go up and out. And he told me, I'm leaving Hollister. This was my life, but I'm leaving Hollister and moving back to San Francisco, where I came from. I think some of those things people don't realize the importance of all those buildings and all those businesses that came down. And it wasn't a park. It was never a park. There was an alley that went to the back, but never a park. Never a place to socialize. And I can tell you, yes, it's on Facebook. It's all over Facebook. And people read and comment on something that somebody else is saying. But I sat there for 2 hours and looked and clicked on everybody that was actually making comments. But excuse me, somebody from Laguna Hills is saving the block? the 400 block? I don't think so. They don't live here. Laguna Hills, Redwood City, Tracy, the Bay Area. People that don't live here want to save the 400 block. And usually on your Facebook, if you click on, if they're originally from Hollister, they'll say they're from Hollister. And you kind of look at that and say, well, they were residents of this community. But I want to say that to you, and I want to say that to the people that are watching tonight, that this isn't about a park. We have parks, and we need to use those parks. I'm an advocate for parks. Anytime a development comes here, I am the first one to ask about that park. Is it going to be built? Because we have community residents that are looking for parks. But tonight, we're not making a decision on anything. Tonight is to accept the fact that the city clerk received that information from the county, and just to conclude and to confirm that those signatures were actually reviewed, and that's all that is on the agenda tonight. By the time the resolution comes back, then there is the possibility of, then the city council can take some action. In regards to the attorney general, that's a top cop in California. In fact, if people don't know that, you should know that. Because no matter what we do in San Benito County or in Hollister, if the Attorney General says that this is the way it's going to go, it's the way it's going to go. So don't matter where we reach in point of the process, should Attorney General Javier Becerra come down and give us that ruling, that opinion, we have to go with that. So just so people understand that tonight is to look and confirm those numbers, and that's it. And if I'm wrong, legal counsel can correct me. But that is what I see on our agenda tonight. Nothing else. And if you want to say something to our legal counsel, when I would suggest that maybe this is the time to clarify to the community that we are not taking any action tonight. We are only confirming numbers.
Well, just to be clear, that the City Council is taking action, and the action is you're accepting the certification of the elections official for the city, who is the city clerk. So that's what's happening tonight. Once that happens, that immediately suspends the validity of the resolution. And then at that point in time, pursuant to Elections Code Section 9241, the City Council must either repeal, take a vote, take action, to repeal the resolution, or to put the resolution up to the voters for election. So that's that would happen at the next regular meeting that the City Council has.
Councilmember Friend? Yeah, everybody's telling stories about Loma Prieta. I was born before Loma Prieta too. But, I was brought into Hollister. I worked for a utility company, and I was brought in to restore all the power and build the substation. And liked the town, and a year later moved here from Sacramento. So I remember what it looked like the day after. It was amazing that you could get around town periodly. It was all the poles were laying on the ground. Most of the buildings were laying on the ground. There were still fires because of the gas lines that were open. So I was here for 3 weeks just rebuilding the infrastructure for the town, put it back up on the deal. So I'd have a little interest in what's going on here. But I just want everybody to understand, tonight we're just accepting the fact that there were 1,600 valid petitions. Before the next regular agendized item comes before us, hopefully we'll have that opinion, and we'll have a good way. We'll know what the Attorney General thinks about the rule. Whether or not I think the petition was illegally brought forward, that's my opinion. I think the person who generated the resolution had to recluse himself. Has a financial interest in that. There's something going on that block. It's been sitting there for 28 years and nothing has happened. So if we took our rule back and said, okay, we're not going to build on it, it's going to sit there for another 28 years, because if you think this council is going to spend more money to make a park out of it, you're wrong. So it's just going to sit there and it costs the city about $3,000 a year just to mow the lawn and water it. We'll just continue on. But Marty made a point, and he's right. The people that were the taxes that they were used to getting from those buildings that were there were suspended because of the RDA, and we made a deal with the state that said we will pay those taxes when that piece of property is sold. If that piece of property is not sold, we will still pay those taxes, those $230,000 or $240,000. We made a deal with the state, and the person that made this referendum signed that deal. So we can either sit here on our hands and not do anything with it, and it's still going to cost us $240,000, because that's going to come out of the general fund. And when it comes out of the general fund, there's alleyways and streets that are not going to get paved in this town, because that's coming right out of that general fund. So either way, this money's got to come from somewhere. So if the will of 1,600 people is we put it on a ballot, we'll take it right out of the general fund. We'll pay for the have it on the ballot, but we won't repave any of these alleys that are in such bad shape, because that money's got to come from somewhere else. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Councilmember Gillio?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Clower. I appreciate all the public's comments. I appreciate everybody taking the time to come down here. It's about 8:20 already, so I'm going to try to be brief. I'm sorry I wasn't so brief last time, but like I said, one of the points that Miss Victoria Montoya made, are you still here? I think she may have left. I want to address one of her questions. She said something that was very telling to me. She said that she signed the petition, and I believe this, by the way, is no fault of her own, and she said that it would be great to have condos or apartments, I think is the word she used, and retail below. That is exactly what the project is, but when maybe she got the petition, I wanted to ask her, I'm not going to speak for her, but something didn't translate all the way through to her understanding of that, because that is the project. And maybe, perhaps, she was misled when she had I really wanted to let her know that is the exact project that she thought would be great down there is the exact project we're talking about. Number one. Number two, Marty mentioned it's $390,000 as a total sales price, and we're a percentage of that, but that is what it is. And Mr. City Attorney, I think you clarified the question. I want to be clear. So, Councilmember Friend, what I'm referring to here is this sentence in the staff report. It says that we should decide to accept the city clerk, and I'm abbreviating here, clerk's final certification of the sufficiency of the referendum petition and provide staff further direction. And I think the whole reason for that further direction is so at the next meeting they can be ready to provide us with some options. That's my only point to bringing that up. And one final thing. Give me 1 second to find I had some more numbers for you guys. Actually, you know what? It doesn't matter. We've gone over the numbers enough, and we know that there's a great benefit for the community financially, and I hope that we can come to a solution that we can all accept and enjoy the 400 block for what the project is proposed. Thank you, Vice Mayor Clower.
Thank you. I guess it's my turn now. I'm looking at this a little differently. We've been talking about this for a long time. I think it's been a rough road for essentially pretty much everybody involved. But I think we're really lucky as a town to have a piece of property that's available for something, and we have this many people that are this interested in it. I think I've thanked the applicants before. You guys have done a nice job of working with the city through this whole process. The city staff has done a nice job. Sounds a little weird, but I'd like to thank the people who signed the petition, because you've gotten involved in the process. A lot of times, as elected officials, we're told that we don't necessarily listen to the people. This is a grand opportunity to actually deal with the process and the beauty and the savagery of the process. and actually go through this and figure it out as a community. $30,000 is a lot, but I think it's not a lot when it comes to hopefully instilling a little trust back into the system. Everybody's going to have an opportunity to get involved. If you sign the petition and you knew everything about it, wonderful. If you signed the petition and you didn't know anything about it, wonderful. Now's your time to learn everything about the project as it goes forward. As we go through the process, I think it's a very, maybe a little bit euphemistic, but it's a very exciting process. My feeling is that we need to certify the results. It makes sense to me. The county has said that they're correct. I don't think we have another option personally. I don't like uncertainty, so I don't necessarily want to kick the can down the road. I don't like when we do it with other agenda items. If we have an opportunity to take action, we should do it. My personal opinion is that the only route to go at this point is to put it to a vote, get more people involved. The sides will do what they're going to do, and hopefully at the end of it, everybody will have a better understanding of what they want downtown. Not everybody's going to agree, but everybody will have a better understanding of what they want and where we should go with the project or a different project. Beyond that, I think we're past the time of talking about the merits of the actual project that's been discussed. We've done that forever. I think that we're probably going to have to wait at least a year to even talk about other options. So my opinion is that I don't know if this is going to be the will of the council, but I'd like to move forward with actually setting a date for it and actually get the process rolling so that we know what we're doing. The last few months has been tough because we've been working in an information vacuum, and there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of disinformation. The more information the public has, the more information the council has, the better. This is our opportunity to actually set a course and move forward. That's my opinion. I think if there's no other comments, we can look at giving direction and making a motion on actually certifying the signatures. So, Councilmember Luna?
I want to ask of the opinion of legal counsel. Can this item be tabled to a next meeting?
I would not recommend that for various reasons. One is there's a requirement by the elections official who's putting the certification for your decision. And two, if you decide to table it, I believe that the city would be subject to a litigation lawsuit for failing to comply with the elections code.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Clower, I'd like to make a motion. Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we, I'm sorry, I lost the resolution number for your clerk's record here. That we certify the votes and the
236.
236, thank you. For resolution 2017-236, and we provide staff with the direction to bring back at our next council meeting what a vote would look like and the exact or the closest cost we can get to, the deadlines for a vote, and then also what it means to do nothing and wait for the Attorney General.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Can I ask for clarification? When you ask for a vote, are you saying choosing election option 1?
Yeah, to direct staff to look at the election option 1, bring it back at the next meeting, as well as waiting for an Attorney General opinion. I'd like to be very clear that even if we go down the election road, that we can, at a later time, if the Attorney General comes to us in February, March, April, May, and says that this is a illegal process, we can stop the ballot measure and the election process. That's it.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we'll try again. I'm going to move to certify, to accept, or move to approve resolution number 2017-236.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
There you
go. City Attorney Diaz, I don't want to sound ignorant on this, but what do we do?
Well, at this juncture, you need for this resolution, you need a three vote. So if the resolution is not, the resolution does not pass with 2 votes only, there's a tie. So at this point in time, there is a rejection, basically, of the resolution, and there is no acceptance by the city council of the city clerk's certification.
It's just a legal issue.
I'd like to have a clarification.
Go
here.
ahead, Mr. Friend.
My negative vote was because of the clarifications and the instructions that were given to staff. I think they should bring us back 3 opinions, 3 options. Put it to vote, leave it like it is, and then pick the date we want to put it to vote.
Okay.
I don't want to bring it back thinking that all we're going to do is decide on whether it's going to vote or not. I want the instructions to be, or the options to be there, that if we do nothing but leave the project like it is, that's one of our options.
Councilmember Friend, are you comfortable
I will
approving the
accept-
motion that accepts the certification?
I will accept that, but the instructions to the staff, when it comes back to us, should have the options that are available, not just what ballot we're going to put it on.
Okay. My motion was nothing else except the certification. So can you make that motion?
I would vote on just accepting that with nothing else from the staff.
Okay. Can you make that motion? Because I don't think I can.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So now do we want to look at the...
Now,
Okay.
the instructions to
Councilman
the
Friend.
staff that I would recommend coming back would be with the options, like Christine has already put in her report to us, that we have the option to put it to ballot and what date we can pick, or leave the project as it is. Not put it up for ballot. We can accept the fact that their sigature's been here. but we don't
Councilmember
have to
Friend,
accept that.
I believe your options are either to repeal it in its entirety or go to election. Those are your options.
Well, those are the options pursuant to Elections Code 9241. Aside from those are your legal options. Aside from those, you have the option to not put it out for vote if you believe that the referendum is illegal because it constitutes an attempt to address an issue that is administrative as opposed to legislative. So that's really your third option, which is a legal option that you have available to you.
And we'll be able to use that if we get that opinion by the next.
That's correct.
Make a comment, please, Vice Mayor Clower. Sure. Councilmember Friend, we're not in disagreement, by the way, number one. Number two, I think doing directing staff to look at the farthest out election and the cheapest, by the way, the most cost effective, does the same thing you want to do without incurring any cost of the city. My assumption is we're going to get sued immediately after this meeting if we don't provide the proper legal direction that the city attorney is telling us. We're exposing the city to legal liability, which that's a choice you have to make if you want to do that. But I think if we do the same thing here, though, we do the same thing is if we direct staff to bring it back and we end up, I'm not saying we're doing that tonight, but if we do end up putting it out, saying we're going to put it out to a vote in November, we still have all the way until August 10th, according to the city manager, for the Attorney General to come back and say, hey, this is not a valid petition. And then we stop the train. And there's no lawsuit. There's no legal bills for the city. It's kind of, you're kind of getting there the same way, I think. I don't disagree with your thoughts.
Is that true?
What? You're the attorney.
So that's correct, assuming, like I said before, that the matter does not get put into the hands of the county registrar voters. Once it goes there, then the city council loses the power to do anything other than going into court and requesting a judge to stop the measure from proceeding to an election because it's illegal. That would be the argument that you would make to the judge.
And that date is August 10th,
But
correct?
that'd be 8 months from now.
Thank you so much.
9 months, 10 months.
Are there any other questions, or do we have a consensus on how to move forward?
As I understood, I think you do have consensus, and the options are basically what's going to happen at the next meeting is you'll be given the option to consider repealing the entire ordinance. You'll also be given the option to submit the resolution to the voters along with different options as to how you want to do that. And we will also present all of the other requirements that have to take place whereby the city is actually assigning the job, should you decide to take it to the voters. You're going to have to assign that job to the county, and then we're also going to have to draft the question, how the question is going to be presented to the voters as a measure. So there's a lot of technicalities that have to take place if you decide to put the measure out to the voters. We'll have to address all of those at the next regular meeting.
Thank you. I would also like to add on to that that process, as well as I did a quick down and dirty fiscal analysis. I'd like a complete fiscal analysis of where we're at today, what it means if we have to back out now for whatever reason, what it means to the Community Foundation, to the Del Curto brothers. Are we on the hook for liability from them? I'd like to know the whole picture so that next meeting there's no outstanding questions and we can make a decision and we can move on and we can continue with the rest of our city business, please.
So we're all good?
We're going to move forward now with item F4. All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This matter is pretty simple. It relates to just some minor amendments to the Hollister Municipal Code, and specifically Section 1.18 that relates to administrative citations and how those are administered. The changes essentially relate to the duties as to who, which city staff was authorized to accept appeals. Formerly, under the code, we have that it was the duty of the city clerk to accept all appeals relating to administrative citations or tickets that are issued. That's being changed now so that it's code enforcement that is going to be the entity and the city staff that is going to be authorized to accept the administrative citations. They will be processing the citations, and they will also be taking into consideration the applications from any person who's issued a citation for a waiver of the fine that they have to pay while they're appealing it. And again, that's going to be handled by code enforcement. So if I may apprise you the particular sections that are being amended. So the first section that's being amended is section 1.18.060, which relates to the hearing request, and subsections capital A and capital B. You'll note that in there it now says Code Enforcement Department and Code Enforcement Office, and it identifies the location of where the appeals are to be submitted. Then the next section also that is being amended is section 1.18.070, which relates to the hearing procedure. And again, that relates to the waiver, how it's filed. And now it's no longer going to be filed with the city clerk, but instead will be filed with code enforcement. Those are the major substantive changes. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this ordinance.
Okay, are there any questions from council? Do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Mickey and Carson.
Move to city.
Christine, do you want to make that one clarification? One clarification.
I would. Every amendment to an ordinance needs to be introduced and then adopted. I typed adopt instead of introduce. So this actually should be introduced tonight and then adopted on the October 2nd meeting. So I apologize for that. It does say adopt in both places. It should have said introduce, and on the 2nd it will say adopt.
Does he have to repeat the motion?
No.
Or is that something
No,
the clerk can handle?
I think that can be handled. Okay. It's on the record, and I think we know what was approved.
Thank you. We'll move to G1, report from city council members. Councilmember Luna.
I have no report.
Councilmember Friend.
Yeah, I have three reports. Had the meeting of the fire committee, excuse me, and we had a report out on vehicle status and updates in the buildings and stuff. Then I had a meeting of the water department, and we wanted to make everybody aware that the new pumping plant has been tested and is working. They're about to have the grand opening and start that thing moving water into the city to make the city's water a better deal. As soon as we finish the crosstown pipe, it'll be real evident around the whole city. Also, I attended the California League of Cities, and I'll be making a formal report on everything I got from there at another date.
Okay. Councilmember Clower.
Yes, I attended the intergovernmental meeting, I think it was maybe 2 Thursdays ago, and the thing that stuck out most to me is there's a slight issue with the Hollister School District coming to an agreement with a property owner on a school site. And so I would just want to see if we can come up with some sort of plan or process to work with the school district in identifying, doesn't have to be specific sites, but general areas. I know that the planning department is already working on that. But I think part of the issue that we have in the actual process is that a lot of the projects that we see, they may seem big, but they're really not that big in terms of actual area. And to pull a school site, even if it's a 20-acre parcel, to pull a 10-acre school site off of a single parcel when it's in the going through the tentative map stage isn't really realistic. But if we get out ahead of the actual projects being submitted or applications being submitted to the building department, the planning department, that maybe we could help the school district in actually identifying and then procuring the sites. I think that we're doing it backward at this point, and it's not working. And just looking at the projects that are likely to come in, none of them are master planned. There's not a whole lot of 500 home projects, 1,000 home projects that are coming through anytime soon. And if you were going to bring a project, you're not going to want or allow somebody just to pull off half of your project because you happen to be in the area that the school wanted to put a school. So if we get out ahead of it, and it sounds maybe a little callous, but if we get out far enough ahead of it before people think that their property's worth $10 million, then the school district may actually be able to purchase it for a fair price. So if we can figure out some sort of process in identifying those areas with the school district, I think that would be great. It would probably resolve some problems that will likely pop up, 20 years from now. Thank you.
Councilman Gilio?
I'll save for G2, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. My update is also with intergovernmental. We had a discussion about finding a way to increase the impact fees for recreation so we can move towards having an aquatic center built, ballpark, and some of the other quality of life projects we're hoping to accomplish here in our community. We're trying to work with the county to see what we can do on that. And Bill, I believe you're going to look for or bring something to the committee or to the council to
Brett and I
forward?
will probably just bring it to intergovernmental. Brett and I will look at how both those funding sources for aquatic center and meeting the current demands plus future demands.
Now, did you need a consensus from the council to keep moving forward?
No, I can.
On that, or we can go from there?
I can do it.
Okay. That's all of my reports. We'll move to informational reports from City Council. Councilmember Luna.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'm glad to report that I also attended the League of California Cities conference, and I believe there was something like 1,800 elected officials throughout the state of California there, and there was a lot more people there, guests and just speakers, great speakers. But I was honored to be asked to receive the Beacon Spotlight Award on behalf for the city of Hollister. And I do want to mention the fact that we received 2 awards at the same time. There's Silver Award, 66% community greenhouse gas reduction and 8% agency energy savings that I'll give to the city manager. And for people that don't know what the Beacon Award is, there was 163 cities and counties that received awards, and Hollister received 2. So I'm glad to report that, and it is actually a nice award and for collaboration, that addresses climate change. And so I'm glad that we were part of that, and so that was exciting. I also will be submitting a report to the City Council on the several sessions that I attended, and I know I saw Ray from time to time there, and also our city manager, but there was so many people there that, it was nice to meet up with so many other city council members that have the same issues as we do. I'm not kidding you. Just about every time you sat down with somebody, they were asking you about cannabis, and what was going on in your community. And it seemed like there was so much confusion in every city and county cities, that people wanted to share information, and everybody kept saying, wait until January. Then we can all call each other and cry on each other's shoulder. So, but I will be submitting a full report on the conference. And I also attended the LULAC Health Fair. I don't know how many of you attended. Thank you, Pauline, for being there, and she served a meal. But it was well attended. that was held on Saturday, September the 16th at the Hollister Community Center, and it's become an annual event now where a lot of people show up, a lot of families come in, and I think that is really great that we can actually present something like this in our community. I'm hoping that I can see all of you there next year, because it is something. I know that Dr. Parveen Sharma is the chair, and I went through all the booths. I mean, I talked to every one of them, and it was nice that I'm hoping that more elected officials can attend also. Mr. Mayor, I really want to bring something to your attention and to the City Council, and that is that I have a really major concern for our immigrant community. You realize that so many of us are involved in organizations that are dealing right now with students from every community and throughout the state and the nation, really, on the DACA issue. And I'm really hoping that hopefully by next meeting we can come up with some kind of support resolution. We do have a lot of students in San Benito High School and throughout the school districts here in San Benito County, and realize that really, if you think about it, I think the majority of the people that have moved into San Benito County and Hollister are immigrants, and they, we support them and they support us. So I'm hoping that we can do something on that also. I'm hoping that in the future, the city manager, we can bring back the legal service contract agreement that we have with city attorney, so that we can look that over again, once again, and see what we can do about that. Okay, that's my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Friend.
No report.
Vice Mayor Clower.
Yeah, somebody told me yesterday that it was Wife Appreciation Day yesterday, so I just want to say that I really appreciate my wife. She was the one that told me it was Wife Appreciation Day, so she keeps me up to date on everything. She also told me it was Chicken Month, so I don't know if that's true or not, but I greatly appreciate everything she does for me and our little ones. And I know she's not watching, so she probably won't even find out about this because she's putting the kids to bed.
Councilmember Gillio.
I attended last week Public Safety Night at the Elks Lodge. It was a nice event. I was glad to see all the support for public safety out there. I was pretty impressed. I wanted to bring something to the city manager's attention to see if we can ask it to come back with the fiscal analysis, maybe, or cost, to see if the council's interested in looking at this. We hear over and over that there's a vacuum of information in the community, and this is not the first time I've heard it with the 400 block issue. I would like us to consider a public information officer position with the city that handles all the communication. So all your communication funnels through one person, and it's one unified message. And people may say, I don't want to pay another person to do this. I don't want more staff. But the amount of liability that can be out there without having the correct information going out can actually cost you more in the long run than not having a PIO. And I think it's super important these days with social media, video, YouTube, and you name it. We need to have somebody out there that's giving out factual, correct information to the community and the public. So if we can, I'd like to see that come back in the next meeting or so to examine what that looks like and see if we have the council support for that. Thank you very much for all of your hard work.
Thank you. I know we recently talked about the striping that went on throughout the city. I just wanted to publicly thank everybody. I've been driving around the town, and it's nice, bright crosswalks all over the city, and it's especially pleased to see it at College and 4th. We talked about that crosswalk and the school crossing sign there. Very important, and it looks really good. So I can tell the guys have gotten a good handle on this now, and I'm really proud of the work they're doing. If, again, we can look at the sidewalks, they're looking pretty shabby out there, all around downtown. And we're going to have to look at leveling up quite a bit pavers throughout. Also, I'm seeing more and more dips.
Starting to sink.
Yeah, throughout the downtown. We don't want people tripping on those. That's all I have. City manager.
I have nothing to report.
City attorney.
I also had the opportunity to attend the League of Cities conference and attended the attorney track presentations, and was mainly there with a lot of other co-attorneys, more than, I would say, we numbered over 200 easy. But the presentations were quite interesting, and I'd be happy to share any information with the City Council on them. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, just a couple things. We had a rally wrap-up meeting last week with pretty much all the principal players, and including the promoter himself. It was actually a very good meeting as far as information sharing goes. We actually talked a little bit later about maybe approaching them for a multi-year contract. I also suggest that we do a full financial analysis of the rally itself as far as costs go. Another reminder, the Junior Fair Rodeo is this Saturday. The Ranch Rodeo is Sunday, right? And of course the fair is the 28th through the 1st of October. And that's all I have.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Actually, I was going to say that about the fair also, so thank you, Chief. And then I also wanted to just make an announcement that the Hollister Fire Department will be having their annual open house. It'll be Saturday, October 14th, 2017, at Fire Station 1, which is the downtown station, the headquarters, from 9:30 a.m. to 3. And I believe they're going to be doing station tours, having exhibits. There will be activities for all ages, hot dogs, and water for all. And it looks like they'll have a Pee Wee Firefighter Combat Challenge.
Thank you. We'll move to item G3, an update from Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, council members, Mayor. I had a longer report, but since it's getting a little late and half of our audience is left that really should have seen these, I just want to update you on 3 videos that we have done through tourism, 2 with Dunbar Productions and 1 with KSBW, and I'll have Christina show them in order and then tell you a little bit about each of them after we view them. They're not very long.
Discover San Benito County. San Benito County. Have you paid a visit? I mean, really paid a visit? We invite you to come and take a close look from the rich history that lives on today in every corner of a county far lesser known than her neighbors, though just a short drive away.
People are always looking for that new, cool place to go that's not far away, and that's what's great about where we are at, because we're close to the Bay Area. People want to escape all that.
Mission San Juan Bautista in the north, one of the most beautiful and authentic of any along California's Mission Trail. To Pinnacles National Park, one of the nation's newest parks, with towering condor habitat, caves, and trails.
It's a gorgeous place with beautiful rocks, a lot of biodiversity, a lot of great trails to hike. So it's a really wonderful park, even if it's a little on the new side.
Any drive in San Benito County is a scenic one, and the rural personality of the landscape makes travel more relaxed. Attractions include delicious and acclaimed wineries. In this case, a perfect pit stop for an exotic car club's weekend rally. And motorsports have a storied history, especially in Hollister, home of the Hollister Independence Rally, made extra famous by Marlon Brando's classic film role as the Wild One.
It made Hollister famous. It put Hollister on the map, and Hollister is recognized as the birthplace of the American biker.
One of San Benito County's biggest draws, the Hollister Hills State Vehicular Recreation Area.
One of the very cool things about Hollister Hills is that this is the first OHV area run by the state of California.
San Benito County enjoys a year-round temperate climate where locals and visitors alike can take advantage of a more relaxed pace to explore their surroundings.
I'm hoping that's what Hollister can be for people, is a destination to spend the weekend or the day.
It's a beautiful place to explore. Discover or rediscover San Benito County soon. Mile Meals, aiming the camera at everything fresh, tasty, and local. San Benito County, a next-door neighbor of Monterey, Santa Cruz, and the Silicon Valley. If you haven't heard, San Benito County's restaurants, wineries, and chefs make exploring here delicious. Mexican comfort food is served up in San Juan Bautista at Doña Esther. If the restaurant carries grandmother's name, it's dedicated to welcoming friends and family. Favorites include enchiladas and burritos, tamales, and homemade soups. Enjoy a full bar and plenty of room for groups or special occasions at Doña Esther. Farm to Table is the journey locally raised Michael Fisher made, and now his experience in Europe and New York enhance his menu. Fisher's is casual, healthy, local, and delicious. He prides himself on his chalkboard menu, ensuring it's always in season and locally sourced. After all, the farmers and ranchers are neighbors and friends to Fisher's, downtown Hollister, and available to cater your party. French, Italian, or American, find them all on the menu at Payne's in downtown Hollister. Casual fine dining in Hollister since 1929. Lunch or drinks with friends, catch the game in the lounge, and always enjoy pairings of great pasta, meat, or seafood dishes with local wine. Fresh salads grown locally too, and Payne's crew will happily host or cater a special event. Roadside attraction and local favorite, Wizards Cafe, is a destination diner. Corbin Motorcycle Seat Company Cafe, and a museum gallery paying homage to Hollister's history with and love for motorcycles. Wizards Cafe dishes up great American fare, full breakfasts, and hearty lunches with shakes, burgers, tacos, and salads. If you're waiting for the new edition future car, Corbin Sparrow, getting a new seat on your motorcycle, or just hungry, you won't forget a trip to Wizards Cafe. Brought to you by Performance Food Service Ledyard.
Okay, so those are the two that we had done by Dunbar Productions. And if you'll notice on your dais, you have, they are broadcasting on Comcast right now. And it has a map of all the areas that we are hitting. In San Francisco, they have over 1 million subscribers. And in the Salinas and Monterey area, there's over 75,000 that are seeing these on their Comcast and Infinity. They're also being viewed on Facebook, YouTube, and in hotels throughout Monterey, Santa Cruz, and Carmel, including Embassy Suites and Monterey Plaza Hotel, Seascape Resort, the Dream Inn, Bernardus Lodge, and Carmel Valley, just to name a few. So those are the two that we have done with Dunbar Productions. And then the next one is one that we did with KSBW that aired 98 times during a 30-day period. So that's the last one that we have.
Discover San Benito, home of Hollister, California. Blackjack's Breakfast and Grill. Grillin' and Chillin' Roadhouse. La Katrina Mexican Grill. Discover San Benito County. Haynes Restaurant and Bar. Grillin' and Chillin' Alehouse Brewery. Shop, dine, stay, and play in San Benito County.
Okay, so that's the one that aired the 98 times during a 30-day period. Also, the 100-mile meals, if you'll notice on the map of the U.S., those are 110 channels that are public access channels that the 100-mile meals is playing on. So if you have any questions, I wanted to make it short for you guys.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Everybody's tired. Okay, thank you. I don't want to leave my notes up here.
What's terrible about that, Julie, is none of those restaurants are open when this meeting is over.
That's not my issue.
Move to item 4. G4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Let's see, Christine, if I can, you got one? Okay. So this item came to you folks several months ago, and I promised that I would bring it back when we had our operating budget in line, our capital improvement budget in line, and making sure that if staff was going to recommend a decrease in sewer rates for our sewer user rates, that I didn't want to have to come back to you in a year or two and ask for an increase. That would be the worst thing in the world. So, as you know, a couple years ago, we refinanced our bonds, and we were very fortunate that we saved a lot of money in our overall debt service, which basically gave us the opportunity to present this to you. I have Victor here from Raft Tillis, and we can kind of go through the numbers if you want to, but I can make this pretty short and sweet as well. What staff is going to recommend is that we actually reduce our overall revenues by approximately 5%. And what that 5% means in dollars to the residential user is about 12% savings. So in single-family homes, it would be $10.18 per month. I believe multifamily homes is what was multi? $8.87, and then in the mobile homes it was about $6. Anyway, so what that does, there's a couple of things that is important. For every action, there's a reaction. I want to make sure I'm very clear on this as well. You have 76 accounts that are considered commercial accounts that are a higher strength, grade of effluent that's going. In order for us to keep our coverages in order for at least the next 5 years, we would have to increase the moderate strength folks in the commercial category. So what you'll see is that it's actually kind of significant. So if you'll see that moderate strength level there where the box is highlighted, it represents basically a 32% increase or $24. So there's your commercial, say your restaurants and those types of businesses that are here in town, they would actually see an increase in their rates as opposed to the residential component as seeing a decrease. And that's really based on an equity factor, on strength of effluent that's actually being treated and moving forward. That's not necessarily where I want it to be, honestly, but I think overall, having the benefit of reducing our residential rates, that $10.18 is worthwhile. I also want to point out that in years 22, 23, and 24, I think it was, we may have to increase the rates by 2%. And what that does is that just ensures, again, that we meet debt coverage. I want to say that as we go through the process and we talk about increases in the future years, that just like the increases that we implemented a long time ago or adopted a long time ago, doesn't necessarily mean that the council has to implement those increases, but they are available to us if we need them. Brett told me that we have a call on our bonds in 5 years, so there's the potential of reducing our principal, which would then in turn have the potential of reducing our debt service, which again would make those probably not necessarily have to be implemented. But again, just for full disclosure, I want to make sure everybody understands that it's likely that, or it could be a situation where we increase 2, 2, and 1. Getting us back to essentially where we are today. But at least in the near term, we are where we can be, and provide some benefit for our residential users. So it is subject to a 218 process. That basically means that we mail out ballots. Those protesting would mail them back, assuming we don't get a significant number of those. We can go ahead and move forward with that, with those rates. Again, our whole rate structure is truly based on making sure that we meet our operating costs, our capital improvement costs, and most importantly, our debt service, our coverage requirements pursuant to our bond. So that was fast and dirty, but I think that going down that path is probably the most solid way to go to have people receive some of that benefit immediately. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Or Victor can answer them. He's smarter than I am.
Okay. Do you have any questions from council? Councilor Luna?
So you are saying the commercial rate increase would be 24?
Yeah. The commercial increase on the base rate is significant. It's $24. But I would also remind the council that, again, we did not raise any rates for any user group over the last 7, almost 8 years now. The last increase that we've seen in our sewer rates was in 2010. And again, as most people remember, they were significant rates. So we've been dealing with that. But we've also, the councils, prior councils and this council have done a really good job with being able to maintain that, where we never had to implement rates that went up much higher than that.
So on the sewer is actually calculated on the usage of the water, isn't it?
You have a base. You have a base rate, and then you have a
base.
consumption. You have an overconsumption rate. So as long as the more water you're using, the more you're sending. Then that's when that kicks in. But there is a base rate to it. Yes.
So if they're using the basic, would those $24 kick in?
Yeah. So on that one.
Are we talking about commercial only?
Yeah, commercial.
That conversation.
Yeah, your moderate strength. We don't have a moderate and a high. We just have a moderate. Our moderate strength stuff. So you have a base rate that will go up $24, and then you have a consumption rate, and that consumption rate is based on cubic feet of effluent that's leaving, and that goes up slightly as well.
Okay.
Slightly. I shouldn't say slightly. I should say it's like $9. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Vice Mayor Clower?
What number or what dollar decrease per month would allow us to keep the commercial at its current rate?
So we've talked about that a little bit, and I think we want to make sure that one group isn't subsidizing another group, right? That's important to us, but it also is not necessarily about the groups themselves. It's about the BODs and the strength of the effluent that's going down to be treated. And so that's the other part where we want to make sure that nobody will be able to challenge us in the future. So we have, and Ralph Tellis might even say that we should actually have another category that's a moderate and a high strength category that escalates from there. So to answer your question about where we actually need to be on, because as you can imagine, there's having 76 accounts versus 7,000 accounts, it's minimal. So it's really about making sure that people are paying with their fair share of what's being charged, not necessarily worrying about whether it's $7,600 a month that's collected on 76 accounts. Does that make sense?
Okay, so it's basically the study came up with the results that based on the demand of service, this is what it should be one way or another.
Yes.
Okay.
Councilor Giglio?
Have we done any outreach to the business community on this?
No. Like I said, what we have done and why there's been like a 6-month delay is, I just wanted to make sure that when we start going down this path, before we actually throw out a 218 vote for the people to vote on, I wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be putting ourselves in a bad situation in the future. But I certainly, as we go down the process and start gearing up for the 218 process, we absolutely will get with all the businesses that are in that category and make sure we do outreach to them.
And this affects literally every business, from a one-person business, commercial, obviously, to
anybody who's being charged that commercial rate for that higher strength effluent.
Okay. And I guess maybe a question for Victor or both you guys. You mentioned the moderate and then potentially a high effluent rate.
We're not proposing.
I know
to do
we're
a
not, but
right,
is that a thought that we should consider? Then we can keep everybody that's not using a ton. You know, if you have 1 or 2 employees, you know, every dollar counts.
Right. What I would say is this: a lot of what we try to do on a daily basis is sort of attract that restaurant and those types of uses. Those are your uses that are at that higher at that higher rate. Our plant is expensive to run, as you know, because it's an MBR plant, and it just just by the nature of the beast, it's expensive. When you add that next layer on there for that higher demand, it exponentially goes much higher. And I personally would have a harder time making it an attractive place to do business as a restaurant if we had those rates in place. I think we just lost a restaurant, a national chain, about a week ago because there was multiple things, but this was actually one of the things that they were really looking at our current rates. So I don't want to really go up too much if we don't have to.
Thank you.
That would be my recommendation.
And that is my concern. I think the rates on commercial, they're pretty high for restaurants, and it might not seem like a lot of money, $25, $23, but it's another hit. And it's tough business to make it in. Those, compounded with the water. Did you say only 7,000 accounts? I thought we had 10,000 units in the city.
I think what was the total number of accounts?
It's 7,000 SFR, but I think there's another 2,000 or so MFR, and then another 1,000 or so trailer residents.
The reason I'm asking that, if you, I just by running through the numbers, but if we had 10,000 units, that 18 cents, it's almost becomes a wash as far as the increase, so we don't have to increase the commercial part of that. I know what you're saying about the other part, that you have to be fair as far as spreading the cost, but I'm very concerned about that part of it. We want to make sure the residents are getting their savings, but it's putting that additional increase on those businesses. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. So
I trust me, I struggled with it a lot.
I know in the past we talked. We can get to $10. We've accomplished something good. Mm-hmm. And if we can get to $10 rather than $10.18 or something, can we make that work legally, or what's the deal there?
Well, there's a couple other things too. We've been on the commercial and industrial rates, or that moderate income or moderate group. We didn't actually project any real growth, and as you know, that there is some growth built in there as well. So there's a potential as say the bypass development comes on, we may be able to reduce that as well. So there's that component. There's also the opportunity, if the council desires, is to essentially come up with a program to offset those costs. I don't want to call it a rate stabilization fund, but you're talking about $22,000, $23,000 a year on those accounts. If that's something that you would like to come up with, because they generate X millions of dollars in retail sales, there's always that opportunity to do something as well.
I would like to see what we do, because I think it's very important. We encourage restaurants to come.
Yeah. I try it every day.
I know you do. The entertainment function is very important of what downtowns are now. And if we're going to lose them because of the higher rates, and again, some people might think no big deal, but it's a big deal, as you pointed out. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to come up with some sort of structure to make sure we're not hitting them as we're decreasing the residents' rates. Okay. So it's a good challenge.
No, it is, and like I said, what may be a better approach is to come up with another financing mechanism to offset those future those current users in that category and future users as well.
How many businesses did you say we are affected by this? 76?
76.
76 times $24. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's like $1,800 a month.
It's like $23,000 a year.
And I know the plan was to buy down again in 5 years when
Yes.
we can with the bond. So that's why we're here, because we did that last time around.
And that's why I think we feel relatively comfortable that even if you are showing increases in those future years, that we will never have to really implement those increases. And we're in a pretty good spot.
I could, again, favor this if we can have a strategy to offset some of that cost for those businesses.
Victor, do you have another idea maybe for the reduction in businesses?
Would it coming down, the residential, to $10 rather than $10.18? I mean, what?
No, I mean, the way the reduction kind of occurs, it would be across the board. So reducing the residential to 1018 would also reduce the magnitude of. Actually, it would increase the rate for the because it would increase your overall revenue requirement. So the way we're doing this here is we're reducing the overall revenue you're collecting, and that's kind of a negative 5% adjustment on the cost of service-based rates. So to reduce the residential rate to $10 less would actually also increase the other rate more, if that makes sense, because you'd be collecting more revenue as a whole.
The 10.8.
Yeah.
Right.
So that probably wasn't very clear, but I can.
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to figure out a way to make this as fair as possible to everyone, and we want to really go out and encourage, again, those types of entertainment businesses, because that's what downtowns are now. They're about entertainment, and without it, you're not going to have a thriving downtown.
I agree. I think would be a great idea to come up with a alternative financing that would encourage people to build new restaurants, and judging on what their income is going to be to the city, offset some of that cost through that mechanism. I don't know.
It's almost, you can almost do it like a rebate type of I mean, it would be done internally, but yeah.
You know, if they paid business taxes and taxes on all the food and stuff that they do in the entertainment and stuff, repay some of that cost to them. So
yeah, like I said, $22,000 or $23,000 in this magnitude is pretty insignificant, right? I mean, we can make that work.
Yeah, but it's not to the guy trying to start a restaurant.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, as an overall program goal, it's not.
Okay,
again,
so
when you're talking about saving each individual resident here $120 a year, that's pretty significant.
Yeah. Right. So we'll come up with a strategy on that.
I will come up with a strategy on that.
Do we have any other questions? Do we have any comment cards? No? Okay. What do you, a consensus on this? Is that what you need?
I think that what I will do is if we're good with the model, we'll stick with the model right now. We'll come up with an alternative source for those 76 accounts, and then we'll start the 218 process as soon as possible and get that implemented. Okay?
All right. Thank you for that update.
It's
been a long time coming.
Wow.
I don't want to do something dumb. These things take time, and we made the right moves a few years back.
What else you got to do on the weekends?
Yeah, right. We will also, I don't know if you have the impact fee schedule there too.
Yeah.
We can look at the impact fee schedules on the various uses. There's a pretty significant decrease in that. We can do that on a separate scale, on a separate track, because impact fees don't require a 218 process, but they do require a nexus study, or we have the study, basically this is it. We can implement those via resolution, and then they take effect 30 days after. So, okay.
So this would be the proposed capacity fee.
And that's
the reduction is the total fee now would be $4,000.
Yeah.
Rather than the $9,000.
Rather than no, it's at
10 or 9
13,000.
13.
Yeah, 13,800.
Okay, so I'm going to have a hard time understanding this part of it. I know we've had this discussion, but please explain.
Okay, so with the treatment plant, 52% of the treatment plant is being paid for by future development from 2008 forward. So essentially, the impact fees were paying for capacity that we built. when the project came in less than the $120 million as the original study presented, and then the impact fees that we've collected to this point reduce the principal, and then our refi, what we have is we have a smaller principal balance now on the loan, but our capacity is essentially the same. So the denominator now has changed. So you owe, I think it's 70 million. So about $35 million now instead of $60 million is being paid for by new development. And so therefore those same number of units and that growth or the capacity in the plant gets divided by a different number. So that's how that number gets reduced that significantly. So it's a lot of the administration part of what happened and the decisions that you made by refinancing. Also, the capacity at the plant really has changed quite dramatically as well, because with the new trains and et cetera, what you have there is you technically have a 6.5 million gallon plant. And at some point, we probably need to address that, but that's still based on just the 4.5 that you currently have. So you're paying a lot less.
You're paying for
a lot less. You have a lot less principal out there to pay for with the same number of units.
And these are more legal requirements because you can't put the burden on.
Yeah, what'll happen? Yeah, once we go through this, and when developers realize that if they're paying quite a bit more for the same amount of capacity at the plant than really it's worth, that's when they get upset. So this just keeps us out of trouble.
What about for the future costs, future upgrades? I don't want to get ourselves in the situation we're in the past where we weren't.
Right.
We had a lower rate and it caught up to us.
Right. So all of our capital improvement projects is part of that original enterprise or operating account. So any upgrades to trains, any upgrades to facilities that need to be taken care of is all already part of our capital improvement program and our plan, so that as long as the city continues to make those upgrades, it'll be either taken up in their impact fees and or in their operating expenses. Because impact fees, again, really should be to pay for the capacity that they paid for, or when you get to that, it should pay for the new capacity. And we've kind of already done a little bit of both. As I said, when we got our new efficient trains in there, that did two things. That fixed an issue that we had, plus it gave us a lot more capacity because they're just more efficient now than they were 10 years ago.
My concerns are just that we never get ourselves back in the same situation, that when the time comes to expand it, there's our cash in the account so that the ratepayers don't have to go through that hit again. And we figure through time, 10 years, we're pretty much catching up with other communities are catching up to us now as far as the fees. Rates are going up in other communities. We just happen to do it 10 years before most communities.
Right. That was the whole thing, and that's what everybody in this community should really understand, is that we treat our water to Title 22 specs right now. California is going to make every community do that at some point in the future, and when that happens, that's when you go to these more sophisticated systems that cost a lot more to run and operate and to build. So everybody's rates in California are going to be close to ours or above ours before you know it. If they haven't already exceeded us. The newer plants actually have.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't want to put us in the spot where we have messed up. So I'm very careful about how this works.
All right. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Now he gets to drive home to Oakland. Or San Francisco. Huh?
Well, at least
it's a nice drive.
Held him past the commute hour.
He might get stuck on the construction work.
Might get tomorrow morning's right.
Let's move forward to G5.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. I'm Renee Perales in the Development Services Department. We are here before you this evening to report on the 2017 Community Development Block Grant application. There was a public meeting held on September 5th to get input as to what the community would like to see in the upcoming CDBG application. And tonight we are back to get direction from the City Council as to what types of activities you would like to include in the application. The city can apply for 2 activities plus 1 planning and technical assistance activity. Two public services count as one of those activities. Staff is recommending that the City of Hollister apply in the categories of public service, public facility, plus a planning grant. Staff recognizes that there was a recommendation to pursue housing projects and microenterprise loans at the public hearing. The microenterprise can assist with much-needed job creation. However, the CDBG program requirements can make it difficult to use the funds. In regards to the housing, there are no housing projects that are ready within the grant timeline for acquisition or rehab. And the city currently has a down payment assistance home program. Under public services, the public service category must serve low-income clientele. In 2013, local nonprofits were encouraged to apply, and a subcommittee reviewed the applications and selected the nonprofits to be included in the application. This year, 2 public services could be included in the application. We've sent information about the notice of funding availability to multiple nonprofits in the community. So far, 3 have expressed interest in submitting an application to the city. The nonprofits that have expressed interest are Hoviness Meals on Wheels, the Community Food Bank of San Benito County, and the Arts Council of San Benito County. Hoviness Meals on Wheels program provides meals to those individuals 62 and older and that are very low income. Currently, Hoviness has a waiting list of 50 elderly that qualify for the meals and need home-delivered meals. They are projecting to serve 175 people for the year of 2018. They have a projected need of approximately $198,516 to provide the meals. The Food Bank of San Benito County is another possible applicant. They distribute food weekly to low-income families and individuals in the community. They currently serve approximately 9,000 individuals and deliver food to about 800 city households. They have a projected need of about $232,000. We also received some interest from the San Benito County Arts Council, but they have not provided a timely submission. I don't have a lot of information on their needs yet. Under public facility, staff has identified 2 potential public facility projects. The funding cap for this category is $5 million. The city can apply for 1 project in this category. Each project considered must meet the low mod income requirements. One possible public facility project is the construction of an elevator at the old City Hall building located at 339 5th Street to provide an office for the housing authority, and other housing-related activities. The estimated cost is approximately $300,000. Concerns for this project are related to the potential expansion because there's a large area upstairs that could be used for other things, and it may result in a share of the cost. Another public facility project is the construction of the River Park Trail between 4th Street and the new Apricot Lane Park in West Hollister. The trail would accommodate pedestrian and bicycle uses. Today, the new Apricot Lane Park is the only park between Powell, 4th Street, and Nash Road. The trail will link residents in West Hollister to the Apricot Lane Park from 4th Street and Nash Road, and link residents to shopping on 4th Street and San Benito High School on Nash Road. This project would be fully eligible for CDBG funds. We'd also like to apply for a planning grant. Staff is recommending a planning and technical assistance grant to develop plans and specifications to rehabilitate alleys in low moderate income areas of Hollister. There are 14 alleys where all the alley or sections of the alley have potholing and pavement repair needed. The plans could then be used to apply for a public infrastructure project in the future. This year, the cap for this funding is $100,000. Staff is seeking direction from City Council on which public facility project to include in the application. I also wanted to let you know that I have Lori Adams of the Adams Ashby Group here tonight. So she's available if you have any questions specifically regarding the CDBG program.
Vice Mayor Clark.
How exactly did we come to the number for the River Park Trail?
That's the number that we received from David Rupsick, the interim city engineer.
Okay.
So I don't have a lot of information on how he came up with that.
Would we be able to try to get more?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, because 500,000 sounds like a lot, but
Mhm.
as soon as you start working, and most of our engineers' estimates tend to be 50% of what they should be.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it's $1 million. I don't know if it's $1.5 million. But if we're going to get free money, we might as well get a lot of it and try to do that right, so we only have to do it once.
Exactly.
And I don't know if we're going to need a bridge of some sort. I keep driving back and forth across the river, and there's still water in it right now. So I don't know about that location, but at Union Road, it's flowing pretty good, so nobody's going to be able to really just ride their bike right across it. So it's going to be something expensive to actually get across that, I think. So I like the idea of the project. I just want to make sure we ask for enough money.
Okay, and definitely before we actually submit an application, we'll have much better numbers.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gilliam?
Yeah, just a quick question. I was looking at page 290 of the agenda packet. Let me see if I can find a section for you there. Fiscal impact. You mentioned Meals on Wheels, 232,000. I was wondering if that number had been updated from 150. And then I was actually going to ask you if 150 was sufficient for Meals on Wheels.
Well, actually, their original application of 150,000, it was actually reduced because we had to split the money 3 ways.
Okay.
So they did need more money back then, but we just didn't have it available.
So right now it's sitting at 150. Is that right?
No, actually, they've increased it to the Meals on Wheels. They increased to 198,516.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Friend.
I was going to ask the same question about Meals on Wheels. You're asking for recommendations on public facilities and public service?
We can choose 2 public services and 1 public facility and the planning grant.
What's the second public service grant?
Food Bank of San Benito County.
Food Bank.
Councilmember Luna?
Yeah, Renee, I wanted to ask about the elevator project. And this is just the elevator going from the bottom floor to the top floor?
Yes.
That does not include any of the flooring or anything like that?
Only the elevator.
Okay. Because if you're up there in that flooring, you feel like you're just going to come right down to the bottom floor.
That's true.
And that's the estimated cost, $300,000.
That is
that's
just an estimated cost.
Like.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So the 300,000 is just the elevator.
Just the elevator.
Okay. All right.
And just an estimate.
The question I have: the homeless shelter didn't ask for funding for their second phase and third phase.
They did not.
Kind of surprised by that. The River Park Trail, I agree with Vice Mayor Clow, right? Done right, it can be a great project. Or if we do it wrong, it's going to be a project we're not very proud of. So right. I think we have to have a better idea what that
Does
project
anybody
looks
remember
like.
the history on that project?
Update us. As far as the county side of it?
No. The city of Hollister received is it called
RZH?
The city of Hollister received an RZH grant back in the early 2000s, correct? Yeah. And essentially what the park was supposed to do is it was supposed to have a head trail at essentially the bridge and go to the school. And I believe that we received about $3 million. I think that's where those numbers come from, is to do. So we started on the environmental. One thing led to another. Ultimately, obviously, it didn't get built, and we lost the grant funds, so to speak. So there has been some work. There's been actually, I think, a plan line. There's been some environmental work. It was basically done and ready to go. So if David, Mr. Rupsik, is giving us a cost estimate basically from the bridge to Apricot Park, where the new parking lot is for the trailhead, I think you can pretty well rest assured that's pretty close to the right amount, because we were getting closer to actually going out to bid on that particular project, and it really isn't anything other than a DG path that is up on the shelf on most of it, so it stays out of the floodplain. and it was really intended to be more for walking. I think we tried. Did we try to do horses? Was there a horse trail? Yeah. Okay. Never mind. I didn't say anything about horses. No horses allowed.
So when you
just pedestrian.
When you say the bridge, you're talking about on 4th.
4th Street Bridge, yeah.
4th.
Yeah. So that portion of the trail is really, not very far. It's basically the length of our sewer treatment plant.
So it'll go from that bridge to the park.
Yes.
And how do kids cross 4th at that bridge?
How do they? Oh, so the footbridge to like Brigantino Park?
No.
Oh,
I'm making the assumption this is on the east side of the river.
Okay, it's on ours. It's on the east side of the river. The trailhead was basically at the lift station or the pump station that's there right now, kind of underneath the bridge.
Okay, underneath. You go underneath.
Yeah, so you go underneath the bridge, and then you kind of meander through and back up towards, where we always walk, right?
Yes.
And essentially on the top ledge of that section until you get to Apricot. What you have at Apricot right now as part of that park is a parking lot that is used supposedly for that trailhead. And then it was going to continue to go south along the river, east side of the river, essentially all the way down to the Nash Street Bridge. I mean, past the Nash Street Bridge down to the high school. And that's where our section of that river trail was that was the limits of our portion. Now, I know the county had ideas about going from San Juan Bautista to the historical park, but that was kind of what our section was, and that was where our grant was. It was a cool project. I'm not going to lie.
All right. Councilmember or Vice Mayor Clower?
I apologize. I misunderstood what the project was. We have a 60-acre park that nobody's going to be able to get to. So I guess my opinion is that let's see how much money we can get to get people to that park, because if you go by Apricot Lane in the evening, it's packed. People are already there. They're there. But not a whole lot of people are at the other park that's eventually going to be really amazing. So how do we have any plans on how to get them to that park?
There was a point in time where we were talking about doing a footbridge.
Well, let me ask to expand on that. It's a good question. Is that part of the future plan? Is by building this trail that eventually we're going to have a crossing across it to use the other facility?
Yes.
So this would be phase 1 of proposed.
We were hoping that we would be able to build a footbridge or a pedestrian bridge south of the trust company to about the middle of what may be someday the storm drain treatment plant and part of the park or part of that river trail.
Right. Okay. So that we just consider this phase 1 and get working on a better plan.
Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting. So there are some limitations, as you're aware, with CDBG funds in that it has to meet the low mod income criteria within the jurisdiction, or which in the area of the jurisdiction that you're completing a project. Mm-hmm. So in addition to that, we have to ensure that we are developing need around a project in regards to health and safety concerns, getting your pedestrian traffic out of your streetways and moving them up out of that area onto a pathway where they can freely walk and move within the community without having impacts within the roadway areas. So in speaking with staff, that seemed to be one of the key elements of this particular part of the project. Even though you have a larger scale around it and it could potentially connect to other areas in the community, we have to stay focused on developing the application to meet a need and an objective within a low mod income area. So just to bring that back around to the CDBG conversation. So okay.
The rules.
The only thing is it's the same bodies they're going to be walking. They're just going to go into a different park that's not being used. If the people are at that park, and it's one of the easier parks to actually get to because it's built out all the way around it. Whereas most District 3 doesn't have any parks, so you can't go anywhere. But some of the other parks are right on the edge of town. So depending on which side of the street you're on, there's not curb gutter sidewalk. Mm-hmm. There's a river in between this amazing park we have that is, if that qualifies, if this DG trail qualifies as low to mod income, then anything going to that park is going to qualify as low to mod income because it's not like there's a higher income properties around that.
Is that a qualifying area, Mary, that he's speaking of? His, okay. Go ahead.
Come on up.
Yeah, she's very familiar with your census tracts and where all of these things follow.
And the river trail.
The river is a boundary for those census tracts and the block groups. So everything going to the city from the river to Line Street, south to Nash,
Mary,
up to Buena Vista Road.
Would you like me to pull up a map, Mary?
So just sort of everything going east of the river. What about west? That's, I think, the question.
The west of the river, that's not in this. That's in the city, but there's no housing there,
Okay.
and there
But it's the population you're serving, right? It's
right,
not necessarily
it's the population.
where the property is.
Right. And so one of the things with the grant, I think we have to document need. And when we worked on the active transportation planning grant, one of the things we documented there is that there's some health issues with the school, the children that attend the 2 elementary schools in the area where their fitness scores are very poor. And so having access to a river trail, that can help with health. They can walk to school. So
Mary, where's the park that he's speaking about in relationship to the?
It's the green area there.
You know,
the green area to the left of the blue.
That's the river. The new park
right there.
is.
Okay. No, that's the.
Well, either way, that would have to be in a phase 2 or phase 3. My question to
Not
it was
necessarily, because we have up
we
to
could do a
$5
bridge
million
now.
Yeah.
Let's do it now, like first
Not necessarily. So
we could do that bridge now. Yes.
There, you see Apricot Lane.
Okay, so basically, this is our park, Lori?
right.
Oh, but you
So
can't
that's
use that
okay.
park.
So yeah, that's a regional park, correct?
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's a regional park, so then it encompasses the whole city would have access to that particular park. And when we're looking at parks in relationship to CDBG, we would only be able to, because the city is not citywide low mod, you only have pockets within the city. So when you deal with pockets, we would only be able to work with a neighborhood park in that instance, where this is more of a regional park, so it would be a citywide park. So that's our challenge.
Okay, so what if we just stop at like 5 feet before it gets to the park? Because it's a regional park that nobody from the region uses because they can't
Because you can't
get
access
to it.
Correct. So
And it's
this
the worst for the
trail
people
could
who
go
are
to a certain
closer.
point and then stop, and then you could use additional other funds to finish that second part of it. Now, right now I don't know of a lot of other park funds, but I do know that there's a bond being proposed that potentially could bring some more park money into the state of California. That you could then be competitively considered for. Build a school out there, and Safe Routes to School will finish it for you, right, Billy? But I understand your concern, but we do have some very strict boundaries that we have to follow for CDBG. But this could take care of a chunk of that trail for you.
Okay. Any other questions, Councilmember?
You know, and I just want to add, because I live around the area, and it's very familiar, and I just want to actually add that there's a lot of children that live in apartments on West Side Boulevard and Del Rio apartments. Those are the children that I see walking to the Apricot Park.
Right, which is
and even on weekends, I mean, I walk through there and I can see children from everywhere. I know they don't live in the new homes that are all on Apricot Lane and Steinbeck and all that, Cannery Row, but these are children that are walking from these apartments to the park, and they go to the neighborhood school. So I think it would be an asset, for the area, and for parents and children and families to be walking those trails. So I see it.
Okay. The other question I had, the planning grant for the alleyways, is that enough to cover, or you're still looking into that?
That's the maximum we can apply for.
That's the maximum you can apply for. Okay. Yeah, I definitely personally would rather be more in favor of a river park trail rather than a elevator project.
Yeah.
So.
Brian can walk upstairs.
For the exercise, city staff can walk up the stairs.
Chase is
All right, any other questions? Do we have any comments from the public?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, you just need a direction.
Yes.
I think, how does the council feel?
Well, I think we,
The public facility side of that, is that the River Park Trail? And everybody's fine with the other items?
We should build it out as much as possible.
There you have it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just so they know, we'll be coming back with a full application in your first November meeting. And at that point, all of the numbers will be finalized and vetted through your engineer and staff. And that will be the final application approval for direction to staff to submit that and adopt the resolution. So that'll be the next time you see the project on your agenda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move to item G6, ratifying the appointments for planning and parks.
This one's me too, I believe.
I'm sorry?
This one is me also. So basically, the only thing we're missing for Parks and Recreation is District 2 is still available. But we could go ahead and appoint District 4 and the mayor's appointment of, and then they could have a quorum, because currently they are down 3 members and they're unable to have meetings because they are unable to meet a quorum.
You don't have the names listed on this here.
I do not, but there was only 1 application for each.
Okay.
So I've only received 2 applications for Parks and Rec.
There was an attachment to our, it wasn't to the agenda, was it in our Dropbox?
It was in the Dropbox.
The names are here
yeah.
if you need them. Find them again. Sorry.
Okay.
there's really no choices. We only have
right?
one.
There is one, for each.
All right with the
absolutely. Yeah, they look great. I actually want to make a comment. I want to I think Ms. Valdivia, you're the only one here. Is that correct? That's left for the appointments.
That's for the Planning Commission.
Okay, we're talking about Parks and Rec right now?
Yeah.
I just want to appreciate, there's 2 applicants. There was Lance Collart and Robert Rodriguez. I wanted to say thank you very much for all those folks, and then also thank you as well for applying. It's hard to get people to get involved, and this is a great opportunity to get involved. Thank you.
All right, so everyone's all right with the
Who's on?
Councilmember Luna?
Yeah, I just wanted to make
And then
a comment that in my district, actually the term was not, her term was not up, but due to her employment, she will not be able to make the 4 meetings rest of the year, and therefore she agreed that if it was possible, just to fill somebody else in. And that's what we're working on right now.
Okay.
So, just for the public's benefit, can you go ahead and read through the names publicly? Let's start with the Planning Commission.
Planning Commission, I have David Hugh Boy applying for District 4. Gabriel Torres applied but shouldn't have. He was your mayoral appointment that is not up until 2018.
Okay.
I have Pauline Valdivia, who lives in District 2. And then Chris Alvarez applied. He currently was representing District 2, but actually lives in District 1. And we have a District 1 representative already. So.
Okay. So those are the names for the Planning Commission to fill those. All right. Now, if we can go
Pauline
to...
didn't have enough.
She wants more. So now going to the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Parks and Recreation would be Lance Gallart and Robert Rodriguez for District 4 and County Seat, if I can get a consensus.
Right. Okay. Just wanted so the public's aware of it.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Clower?
Christine, did you say my appointment as well? For D3?
Oh, that's right. There was Seth Munzer for planning, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
That's why we had
What
to do it
district
publicly,
was
right?
that?
Okay.
What district was that?
3. District
He's
3.
in D3.
All right. So there's a consensus with the council? Yes. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. H, I, J, and K, there's no
Move for
business.
adjournment.
The motion is second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
You waited all night for that.